Hello, I'm Dan McDermott. Welcome to Google Plus Week, an unofficial look at the world's coolest social network. To the folks watching on YouTube Live, Google Plus, and Justin TV, we'll do our best to monitor your questions and comments throughout the show, and we'll try to get as many of those on the air as possible. Many people spent time learning about the new user interface on Google Plus over the past week and a half. There have been mixed reviews, largely positive. Some criticism initially came from perhaps Google Chrome's most famous extension and app developer, Mohamed Mansour. Mohamed will join us tonight to talk about that and also his new projects. Also this week, we learned that a man who shares the same name as Batman was not exactly welcomed as a superhero when he tried to sign up for Google Plus as Bruce Wayne. As usual, there were rumors. One, that Google is interested in buying Pinterest on the heels of that big Facebook Instagram deal. A lot of folks have been having fun with the newly prominent trending topics with mixed results and cries of censorship. We'll get into that. Oleg and Alan promised to remain fairly civil as they discuss whether Google Plus is, in fact, a more civil place than other social networks. But first, he's smart, funny, occasionally irreverent, but always polite. And on YouTube, he's a genuine star with almost 100,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel, Wilson Tech 1. His videos have gotten millions and millions of views. Ironically, his most popular video ever was entitled Justin Bieber Dies. Lamarr Wilson is a former school teacher and technology coordinator and consultant, and now he's a full-time YouTube content creator. He's also our featured guest. Lamarr Wilson, welcome to Google Plus Week.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
And let me get you on the screen.
All right.
All right, here we go.
Oh, that's going to be scary looking. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
You've broken my computer. All right. Lamarr, it's great to have you with us. You were a high school teacher. How did you get started in videos, and when did you realize that you were onto something?
Well, actually, it was elementary, just to clarify that. High schoolers, I would have probably gone to jail because I would have strangled them. So I started in 2008 with video, ironically, from a guy who who we all, can love sometimes, but can sometimes irritate us on Google Plus. That's Chris Brillo. And I love Chris. We're good friends. I went to a conference of his in 2008 and found out about this world of social media and you can video. So I came back and tried to emulate what he did, and I failed miserably at it. So I stopped. And December 2008, I started doing vlogs, and those are just video blogs where you talk about your life or experiences or current events. And I found I was kind of really interested in that. I mainly did it for the benefit of my business, because my business was tech consulting at the time, and I did it just to add something to my portfolio that, hey, I know how to do video, I can edit video. So it was really meant as a just an extension of what I did in business, and it turned out to be something that I've realized I was pretty good at. At least what people said.
Obviously, you've done well with Justin Bieber and stuff like that, very well. One of your videos has over 4 million views. Yeah. Another one has 1 or 2 million. And you regularly get tens of thousands of views. In general, what topics have you found to be the most popular with the audience on YouTube?
Well, I found that current events really works well. And obviously, anything pop culture. My audience is by and large 13 to 17. That's just the majority who watches me. There is a growing segment of 18 to 24 and a little bit older, but by far it's a teenage audience. They're the most loyal audience. So, it pays to kind of cater to them in a way. And that's why I did the Justin Bieber video. Not that I like Justin Bieber in any sense, but, you do some of those fun videos sometimes just to make the audience laugh. But I would say throughout the whole time I've been on YouTube, it's really just been about the current events, whether it's in tech, whether it's in social media, gaming. I've always kind of centered the videos around that because I found that's the biggest drive to keep people interested in what you're doing instead of just doing random videos about nothing.
What about the length of videos? Is there a magic formula? Most you see long form shows, but most are short.
Yeah. I don't know about a magic number. One thing I learned from a YouTuber named Freddie W, who does amazing videos where there's explosions and all. He's a very talented YouTube partner. One thing he said in a blog is that you do the video until the video is finished. So if your video content is only a minute, then you shouldn't try to stretch it out 2 or 3 minutes just so you can say you did a 3-minute video. And so I try to approach it from that. You know, I do the content until the content's done. So I would say as a general rule, I try not, in my current videos, try not to go over 4 minutes. There was an exception today because it was a question and answer video. So it went about 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Right? I generally find that the audience, if it's not an interesting video, they'll get kind of restless. But if you're interesting and engaging, they'll watch you for up to 10 minutes. I've done some reviews that have been that long. People stay and watch the whole thing.
Yeah, because now there's really good analytics, right, to tell you when they're dropping off, if they're dropping off, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
My last question, and then we'll throw it to Pam and the rest of the Google Plus Hangout we have going on. I know you recently announced that you were leaving Revision 3. I also know you really don't want to get into why, but you did explain that in a video on your channel. His channel's Wilson Tech 1. So how will that decision impact you going forward? Because you did get views there, right? I mean, you still get a lot on YouTube. How does that work?
Yeah, you know, I thought about that decision a long time before I rushed and did it. And I realized that their format, and there's nothing against the people. I think the people there are great, but their format of how they approach ads and just the show format itself doesn't always align with what YouTubers do. YouTubers are very, very independent people. We don't like to be told what we have to do or anything. We are our own bosses all the time. So, there's always going to be that clash. And yeah, we just clash, with that. So I think going forward, they did help me get pushed out a little bit more, but my channel has already been growing before them and it's been growing after them. So actually my numbers have been up ever since I left a couple weeks ago. Record numbers as far as, so I don't gonna say sales, as far as views and as far as subscribers, everything is up. So, I'm not too worried about the future with any consequences with that. I do wish them well. I have no ill will against them. It's just, it wasn't a good fit.
Okay, asked and answered. Okay, let's get Pam Adger. I know you have some questions for Lamarr Wilson. Again, his YouTube channel is Wilson Tech 1. Pam, fire away.
Okay. I actually had a bunch of questions written down, but I won't ask you all of them.
All right.
Do you have a favorite vlog?
A favorite vlog that I've done?
Yeah. Yep. A favorite of yours, not the one that's most popular, but
yeah. There was one I looked at. I don't even remember the exact name of it, but it was one that I was really talking about. I wish I had a moment. I wish I knew that question. I could look it up exactly. But it was one I did about a year and a half ago, and it was pertaining to setting goals or anything. And I did it in a very joking way. Like some people have. It was based on kicking habits. Some people want to kick the habit of smoking, or they want to kick other habits. And I did it in a very joking way, but it had a good meaning to it. And so I really just that's one of the favorite ones I enjoy. If I find a title during this thing, I'll say it. But I like that one because through all of my videos, I try to send. I don't want to be an internet teacher because that's what I've always been. So I'm very careful about that because I don't want my audience to feel like, hey, I just left school. Why are you teaching me? But I do always like to have some kind of, if not a moral, some type of learning process, some type of message that's in the video. So that one resonated with me really well, and it resonated with the audience just about setting goals and being able to kick bad habits and things. So I would say that's one of my favorites, and I will find that title.
Okay, and I'll ask you one more. How much time does it take to produce one of your vlogs? Let's say a 3-minute one. I mean, I'm assuming that you have multiple takes and all that stuff, but just in general.
Oh yeah. Basically, the process starts when I kind of get up and look in my Google Reader, and that's where I really get the bulk of my news. And I go through hundreds of feeds and I don't always try to take the top story. And I think that's where I clash a little bit with my audience and a few of them, the very minority, and their expectation of what they think I should be doing. I'm never going to just take the necessarily top story that's happening in tech, whatever. If I don't connect with it on a level that I can make this entertaining and informative, then I can't do a video on it. So that process sometimes takes, an hour. I'm looking through feeds and trying to find things, look at Flipboard and iPad and things like that. So once I get the story, and I do write out an outline because I want to keep it 3 to 4 minutes if I can. So I have to outline, or otherwise I'll start rambling like I'm doing now. So once I get in front of the camera, it's about 10 minutes to film. It's about 10 to 12 minutes to film. I do try to get that, and then the process is just slicing. You know, you see my videos, the type of editing I do. It's just slicing it down. I do have a lot of takes because I don't ever want to read from the outline. But there's some facts that I have to memorize. If you say anything wrong and you're doing a tech video, they will eat you up, the audience. So I have to make sure that I say certain facts right. But for the most part, some stuff just is ad lib. Some stuff is written down. But I want to make it where you don't know that. It's just conversational.
Okay, I'm going to go to Oleg in 1 second. Okay. Let me go to Alan real quick, and let's catch up on any quick look at the YouTube commenters or questioners. Anything we should hit on right there? I know you're watching.
No, nothing. No big questions from there. They're mostly concerned about my cat, and I think my cat is fine. I just invited him to leave my office for the time being because I didn't think he'd appreciate Lamarr's jokes nearly as much as I would. My question for Lamarr was to find out, you've mentioned Google Reader, you mentioned you're obviously on YouTube. What other Google technologies do you use, and how do you use them together? And kind of, I guess I'm trying to get a grasp of what kind of technologies do you use to put everything together? Okay.
Well, yeah, obviously we mentioned Google Reader and Google Chrome. I use that since Google Plus has come out, that's been a big resource and a big help. If anything, it's just another stream of kind of real-time news and things. So I definitely take a look at Google Plus, and to me, it is my primary network just because there's so much that's aligned with what I, am interested in. That's in my feed. So, yeah, and obviously YouTube is that's where I live on. It's huge. So. But I use Google almost everything. I use Gmail, and I use any Google product you mentioned. I use it. With the exception of Android, I'm not using that right now. I have nothing against it. I just that's just not what I'm using currently.
Yeah, we see the Apple logo in the background.
Yeah, that's just to irritate people when I do live shows.
Okay, we've got a question on YouTube from Chatterbox Chuck. He asks, would you ever consider doing an episode with a fan, perhaps through a Hangout?
I'm not against it. It would be interesting to see how I can produce that. I'm very picky about how the quality comes out of the video, but I'm not opposed to anything. If it's a good idea, like there will be some collaborations that are coming up on my channel. I just haven't announced who. A few big names, but I have had people on my channel who had a couple hundred subscribers and just starting out. I don't look at numbers and say I'm not gonna help you out or anything like that. So yeah, I'm open to it.
I'm going to go to Oleg next. One quick question. How quickly did it grow for you? What year did you start doing this?
It was December 2008.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's been like 3.5 years now. It really didn't start kicking in. I would say early last year is when I guess things started ramping up for me because I took it more seriously. I was taking it too casually before, and I kicked myself because I could be a lot further ahead had I taken it more seriously.
Yeah, that's on average. Yeah. You've had over 3 million views a year if you average it out, so that's not bad. Obviously, it's growing, so it's really a lot more this year. And maybe you could do a separate channel for like a Hangout type thing, but not to compromise your brand of what you do, so they know what to expect. But I don't know. That's I'm not here to tell you how to become a YouTube person, because the opposite is true. Okay, Oleg, you got a couple questions for Lamarr, and I appreciate you reaching out to Lamarr and getting him booked on our show. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Absolutely, because the Lamarr rocks. Lamarr, I want to personally thank you for coming to the show because I'm a huge fan.
You're welcome.
And have been for a while now. And I wanted to ask you a couple of things. Number one, I wanted to ask you was, so basically you pretty much do everything off the cuff, right? You don't prep for the show, writing out the storyboard or anything like that, what you're going to say.
Oh no, I do write out an outline. I have to.
Do.
Yeah,
okay.
Because otherwise I'll be everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Because when you say 10 minutes, I mean, you have to be pretty much on the spot if you do it. I mean, so pretty much it's that way. Second thing is, with all the people that watch you, which tons of people watch you now, I'm sure you're going to have some hecklers and people who don't get it, people or whatever. You get all kinds. How do you deal? I mean, do you actually engage and respond to some of your followers? Because I know when I reached out a little bit to you on a couple of occasions, I always got a response. So I was just wondering if you at all pay attention to your viewers and what they have to say, and how do you deal with people who basically are just obnoxious?
Okay, well, I read every comment, so and I know there's some YouTubers who don't, and there's this sense that YouTubers don't respond to their audience. That's not the case. I cannot answer, and I won't answer every comment because it'll just pollute the stream. But I read every comment. When it comes to the negative ones, it depends. If there's someone who's just blatantly being rude, racist, or just it's a repeated thing. They just in every video they gotta go. They get blocked and they're gone because I don't want them polluting my audience, and I just don't have time for it.
Right.
I did a video earlier this week about this Tupac hologram, and that was kind of blown up. It has over 100,000 views already.
That was excellent. Yes.
Yeah, but that one is getting views from search. These are people who have never seen me before, so a lot of hate is on that one. It's like and I laugh at that hate because I call them drive-by commenters. They'll never see me again. I'll never see them, so I don't get upset at them. I get a little bit more irked when it's people that have been there who start going negative or start deciding that they want to try to control the channel, and so but to answer your question, I don't answer them. I don't answer negative stuff directly because I learned this from being a teacher. If you start giving them attention, then the people who are good commenters will start commenting negatively to get your attention.
Sure.
It's the kids and adults. Nothing changes with that. Everybody wants attention. So the important thing is to, people will say good stuff, compliment them, thank them, and then you'll shift how the comments are.
Okay. Let me. I'm sorry, Oleg. Did you have another one? And then I want
just
to
quick question. If you're planning to change the format in any way and do something, that's, in other words, do something more than just the 3-minute shots. And also, how many of these do you do typically per day? You just do one per day?
I do one per day. Yeah, one per day, five days a week right now. The schedule's kind of in my head. If I don't feel like doing one, I'm just not going to do it that day.
And you're monetizing strictly through AdWords? Is that the plan?
Well, yeah, through AdSense, yeah. And there's some other companies I'm starting to do some work with that might turn into something. We don't know. But yeah, I lost train of your last part of your question. Because I wanted to answer it. What was your last part of that question?
It was about the length. If you're planning to do something longer at all, or just stick to the same, successful.
Right now, the YouTube audience doesn't have a long attention span. So I think it's really important to kind of keep it at a reasonable 4-minute and under length.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to go to Peter. One quick question. You don't have to say who, but I know that I was in a hangout with Shank. I can't pronounce the last name. Was on MSNBC and is now on Current, and he did the show The Young Turks, and he went from doing a very popular YouTube show, and was approached, by MSNBC to go on their network and do a television show. Have you ever been approached in that way? Not necessarily by whom, but I mean, should we one day expect you to be following Colbert and Stewart?
It was funny. One of my friends asked me this yesterday, and they were kind of surprised at my answer. I would not be opposed to looking at something on TV. I have not been approached by anything. I'm just not big enough to probably get noticed. But my dream was always to do a sitcom. For weirdest thing, not even a news show. I always want to be in a sitcom. The guy that walks in, says something stupid, leaves in 3 minutes. That I don't know. I wouldn't want to do a long term, but I think that would just be hilarious.
You'd have been great on Seinfeld. And of course, now that you've gotten the Google Plus Week bump, who knows? All right, let me go to Peter G. McDermott, who's also makes great videos and is very popular on Google Plus. Go ahead, Peter. You got a question or two? And we've only got about 5 or 10 more minutes with Lamarr. And so let's try to bust out a couple questions, and I'm trying to hit everybody.
I'm a little flexible if you're running late. I can stay a little bit longer if you need to. It's your show.
Oh, okay, that's great. Yeah,
Lamarr, I've been following your content. Lamarr, I've been following your content. It was great to be able to meet you in a couple of the hangouts that we've spoken in. Recently, YouTube has changed their policy on the way they do partner accounts. Mm-hmm. Now, pretty much anybody that's monetized one video can become a YouTube partner. Has that devalued in any way your partner status with YouTube? And how do you feel as a YouTube partner as a result of the new change?
I saw a lot of the partners scream and holler about it, and to me, to answer your question directly, it doesn't bother me. I try it when YouTube changes stuff. They're gonna do what they want to do. It is what it is, and so no, I don't feel devalued. I initially thought that maybe the CPM would go down a little bit because so many people are getting ads, and I thought that would be a concern. But that I heard that won't be an issue. But no, the more people that can get motivated to make YouTube, it just makes it better for all of us because more people will be coming to the site, which increases their chances of seeing me and my friends and anybody else that does videos. So no, I never thought much about it after it happened.
So Lamarr, then, for people that are interested in becoming a partner in YouTube and becoming successful, such as you have, what advice would you give to new budding content creators?
Man, I use the Nike slogan. I just say, just do it. I know that sounds cheesy and ridiculous, but really the biggest hurdle for YouTube people doing YouTube is just getting the camera and doing it. And that's how I did. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no concept of the partner program. I didn't know how anything worked. I just recorded a video myself, horribly edited it, and put it up. That was one of my first videos. And so, there are some resources. There's a YouTube playbook, which I think if anybody reads that, you will get a heads up over, so many people about how to, focus on YouTube. But I would just say, don't focus on the haters. Listen to your audience to an extent. And what I mean by that is don't always keep control of your channel where, because I see some big YouTubers who they lose control of their channel because they say, I don't know what to do. Tell me what to do, audience. And the problem with that is that the audience loses a level of respect and they try to take control because you always have to be in command, of what you're going to do. And I do listen to the audience. I get feedback all the time and I do take it to heart. I just always, at the end of the day, have to do videos for me. And I think that's the biggest thing I tell people. Do videos for yourself, because if you don't enjoy it, what's the point of putting it up? Don't try to please everybody else.
Yeah, Lamarr, there's a lot of content at the YouTube Creators Corner, which shows people how they can be successful in creating videos for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
As a tech guy, for somebody starting out, trying to have a successful channel, is there any particular equipment that you would recommend people use?
I kind of overdid. I mean, I got the Canon 60D, which I think is ridiculous for most people. I did it just to bump up the quality, have one of those DSLR cameras. But to be honest, you don't need a lot of equipment. I would say the most important thing you need is good lighting, a tripod, and a good microphone. Because sound is number one most important thing on YouTube. People, you can have all the fancy things in the world. If your sound is horrible, people will just scream about it. In the comments. It's unbelievable how that is. I think I think people subscribe to me and subscribe to other people, and other people do tech not because of the tech. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in this, Peter. I think people need to subscribe because they like you. See, people like my personality, and that's why they subscribe. So they don't really care what I do. And so I really want other people to keep that in mind, because there's thousands of people doing tech, Peter. I mean, there's so many channels to choose from. How are you going to stand out? Personality.
Absolutely, yeah. If you're not talented, you're not going to happen, no matter what cameras use and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, we got a couple things here. We've got great questions, Peter. We've got some stuff from YouTube. One question, my favorite comment was, Lamarr brought Tupac back.
I don't think awesome. I did that.
One guy wants to know, you taught K through 8, right? So you were
elementary
in some, I guess, middle in some states that would be middle school.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not going to read that one. This is a good idea from Daniel. Can't pronounce it, but all these live comments, folks, will become the comments under the video when it's posted. So nice. Nothing will be lost. And I'm sure Lamarr is going to peruse through there, and he may answer a couple of these after the fact. If we can't get to them all live, he'll be able to reply later. Will you make a separate? This is a good idea. Will you make a separate channel dedicated to behind the scenes or bloopers?
No. I am a stickler for keeping all your content on the main channel, because when you start to divide your audience, why have a channel that's sputtering along while your other channel is doing well? People's second channels never really do well. What I do sometimes is that I do put at the end bloopers, like I did a couple days ago.
Yeah, you did a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so I think it's always good to give it to your primary audience. Behind the scenes video, I can always do that on a weekend. Just do it in a comedic, fun way and make it a video. But I'm a real stickler about sticking to one channel. People get too spread out on YouTube, and then they wonder why they're not doing well.
Okay, I'm going to go to Eric Rice next. yeah, one thing that's interesting, Lamarr, I'm getting a bounce back. Sri, could you mute your microphone for us? One of the things I've seen with Google Hangouts, a lot of people have a separate, like I do a produced show that's on Justin and then on one YouTube channel where I have pretty graphics, and then we have the Hangout raw video, which is like the behind-the-scenes making of the show. So I have those on separate things. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and you never see the second channel do as well as the Star channel that made them famous.
Yeah, if you're doing shows like what you're doing, you have to split things up. Obviously, that's completely different. I just meant as someone who's a vlogger or kind of does tech stuff, it's always more beneficial to kind of keep everything in one umbrella if you can.
Right. Okay. Eric Rice, very interesting guy and a recent frequent member of our panel, which we're excited about. Do you have any questions for Lamarr Wilson?
No, I actually remember meeting Lamarr back at a GnomeDex conference in 2008.
That's the first one I went to. You look familiar. I kept looking at you, wondering where I met you from.
Yeah, no, yeah. I remember you from that conference, and you're getting started with everything.
That was my first tech conference. That's what got me kind of propelled into YouTube.
A lot of guys that came from the GnomeDex conference, because it was so small, the one that Perillo ran, just lots and lots of different careers shot out in all different directions. Yeah. It was really awesome, and it's just cool to see people, being an old broadcaster myself, just seeing people do so awesome. So, no questions, but love what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Anthony Klauser, do you have any questions for Lamarr Wilson? Again, Lamarr's YouTube channel is Wilson Tech 1.
I wish I had a question for you, but Ham stole one of mine, and that's the one I had. So
yeah, that's fine.
I do appreciate your stuff, and it's cool to be able to talk to you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy I'm here.
Mohamed, you're our next guest, but I know you don't do a lot of videos, but you do a lot of Hangouts and Hangout app extensions and stuff.
I do watch his videos.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do watch. Yeah.
Do you have any questions for Lamarr? I mean, this is kind of neat to be able to talk to him. It's kind of weird seeing him out of his element, right? Because he's actually
he's calm for some reason. He's really, really calm.
Yeah, because I tell people I'm very highly edited. Like I'm animated when you get to know me, but like doing this and what people are used to in the video is completely different. Yeah.
Can you rage on us like just once on this hangout? Just rage. Like which product? Okay, let me see. What's your are you into like technology in terms of like development and like the Google versus Oracle thing and
no,
stuff
that
like
makes
that?
my head hurt.
Make your head hurt?
I don't know math. So.
Okay. So what's your take on the Google glasses? Will you wear them?
You know what? Even though
will they make you confused and they'll make you like hit polls and like with other people are talking?
I would be one of the first people to buy it. I have majority Mac stuff, but I still love Google. That's the kind of technology you just buy if you're a geek fan. If you're just a technology fan, of course.
Would you put something in your eyeballs, in your eye, just to project light? That's how they work.
Now I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't yet wear glasses, and I don't want to have something happen where I have to wear them.
So my question is, will you trust? Google's an awesome software company. Like they're the best in the whole world, one of the best. But they're entering the hardware space right now, right? Will you trust? And maybe that's their first hardware, right? They never built the Nexus 1. They never built the Nexus S. It's basically third companies, and they're going to build that. So, if I recall, so would you?
I'm worried about it, man, because Google tries. Their philosophy is to ship now, fix later. So I don't want those things force closing on my eyes, and then I can't see for 3 weeks. So I'm a little worried about that.
When you're riding a Google car.
One thing I was going to mention that in your video you were hugging an Apple or Apple product or whatever.
I saw that.
Hug, and I wrote it in the note actually, but I want to publicly state it on YouTube. Lamarr needs to get a baby because he was hugging Apple, and he shouldn't be hugging Apple.
It was metaphorical.
Of course.
And no, I do not need a baby. Oh Lord, let's not go there.
Okay.
But yeah, no.
Did he solve that Rubik's Cube in the back?
I took it out of the package, and I guess solving means putting it on top of, the, of that back there. So yeah, no, I'm scared to do it because I don't think I can finish
to see you on Twit, because it's like all these guys are talking and you're sitting kind of on the side and you're so serious. You're like, this is not Lamarr Wilson. They got some kind of substitute to do Lamarr Wilson.
it was tough because I was in awe, so it was an honor to be there.
Right.
So I didn't want to start acting the character.
Right.
But when they allowed me to, and when I felt like it was a good fit to put a joke in, then I would. But
yeah,
it's different, man. It's hard to go on a more professional show, even like this. I feel a little weird trying to get out of my element, a little bit.
Lamarr, I remember reading a story about the Dave Thomas, the founder of Wendy's, and of course he did those straight man commercials that were so funny. And he would be at the shareholders meeting, and he would be trying to deliver some business report, and people would be just chuckling and laughing at him, because he wasn't trying to be funny, but they were just, it's Dave Wilson, Dave Thomas from Wendy's, so that was neat.
Well, also, the interesting thing about Lamarr is that he actually does some specific things like stop it. For example, one of the typical things Lamarr would do. And when he does it, but you're always dressed in the same clothes, meaning different, whatever clothes you're doing the show, and it's different every time. So you're obviously recording these little pieces that you're doing that are similar in many shows. I mean, basically the same.
Oh yeah, it's recorded live. It's recorded at the same time.
Yeah, you're just redoing basically, which I thought was interesting because.
Yeah, that would be so lazy if I.
Well, I just thought because it's the same pretty much emotion when you're doing the stop it or when you're doing it's crazy or any of those little things that you do. and I just thought, first I thought he must be editing it in. I thought, no, because he's wearing different clothes every time.
Okay, let me go.
I do fresh.
You have a couple quick questions, and then we, Sariq, did you have a question or two for Lamarr Wilson?
Yeah. Hi, Lamarr. My name is Sariq.
Hi. How are you?
Sorry for joining late. I'm good. How about you?
Yeah.
It's one thing to actually do stand-up comedy, in front of an audience, as opposed to doing in front of a camera all by yourself, right? I mean,
It's night and day. It's not, and I've never done stand-up, but I have my audience say, you should do stand-up. No, I should not. That is a totally different beast when you're in front of live people. Like I said earlier, I'm very highly edited. So a lot of my humor comes from the edits.
So, but you're still doing it just at the camera, right? I mean, when you make it, so do you find it easy or?
The camera camera's a piece of cake. I love it. Yeah, because it's a one-on-one experience.
I'm just wondering, there is nobody to respond to, and how do you actually keep the rhythm going?
Yeah, I have to. People think I take pills or something before they keep my energy up. I don't. Sometimes I don't even eat. I just get my energy. I get in the mode. I don't understand how it happens either. I just get in the mode and pretend like there's someone laughing back at me when I say something. It's like I almost have the laugh track in my head. And sometimes I laugh myself because I think it's funny. I laugh at my own jokes, which is quite sad. But
no, it's okay. It's cool.
Then you know they're funny.
4 minutes, probably because of that.
Okay. Before we have to go, Alan, are there any other really good YouTube comments we should hit on?
Oh man, there have been a ton of really good YouTube comments, and I cannot read them all, so I do hope Lamarr gets to some of them later. We've had a lot of people who have been thrilled that you're on. We had a good question that said that they understand that you have an evil twin, Lamarr, and they wanted to know if we're talking to the real Lamarr or if we're talking to his evil twin. Who are you?
I'm the real one. I didn't even know about this evil twin. This is new to me. I may have to create that character now. I didn't know about that.
Okay, and we've had a lot of people who are asking tech questions. What is the best way that they can get in touch with you to send you tech questions to hear you answer on the show?
Man, the best way for that is really on Google Plus. To be honest with you, I'm just that's where I'll answer the majority of the questions because I don't enable YouTube YouTube messages because those are like 90% spam and they drive me crazy and it's a horrible messaging system.
Was that a Facebook logo I just saw you holding your hand?
No, did I have something in my hand? Oh, it was somebody's card. Yeah, I get. Yeah. I didn't even realize I was fidgeting here.
Are you
That's somebody's
nervous?
business card they gave me.
You're out of your element, so you're nervous and holding
Actually,
up a
I was
Facebook.
upstairs.
one more question then before you move on.
Yeah, go ahead, Oleg.
One more question, Lamarr, for you.
Sure.
Because you've been a fairly regular, avid user of Google Plus you've been you have Facebook accounts and other services as well you use, right?
Right.
With all the topics about how everybody's leaving and nobody's using it, all this other BS you hear all the time. What is your personal impression with you using these different services in terms of people engaging with you, how many people follow you, how you like it, all these things kind of put together into one ball? What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think Google Plus fits for me because it's like when I tried Tumblr before, and because that's more of my audience, but I don't fit in that's the teenage world, and I don't fit there, even though they're my audience. So I didn't do well there. Google Plus, I call that the Tumblr for adults. I mean, we have all the same things, and it's a much better element for me. So I feel really home here. And yeah, to answer your question, I do try to spread out. Like I do notice my Facebook page it's very small in terms of the numbers compared to Google Plus. But it's a pretty loyal audience, and I find that the people I'm getting on Google Plus because I'm on the recommended list are not people who know me. So it's a much different experience. But I think it's a great thing. Like just having, even if you're not on a list, just having people who don't know who you are, who take the chance to follow you. I get a chance to sell myself to them, not in that way, but to sell myself and let them find out who I am. That's another viewer. So it's Google Plus is the biggest challenge for me right now, and I mean that in a great way. It is the chance for me to gain an audience that I never would have had before, and it's free. It's like free marketing. It's absolutely fantastic.
Okay, finally, last check-in with Alan and the YouTube Live viewers. Any final questions or comments there, Alan? Or did you have any questions or comments for Lamarr?
No, I've got no further questions for Lamarr, and I think your fans on YouTube have been thrilled to see you here. I wanted to thank you personally for coming and visiting us this evening.
This was great. I didn't know what to expect, but this is. I would definitely do something like this again. This is fantastic. So,
well, I'm sure awesome. Dan will invite you back anytime.
Yeah, he'll be back next week, folks. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, Lamarr, I know that you have other commitments and several parties to go to and all kinds of fun stuff that we never
right on my
invited
Xbox.
To. Yes. But I know that you will keep creating and we will keep watching. And thanks so very much for joining us. And I hope you have a great Google Plus week. You too. Thank you all for having me here. Thanks. Awesome. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Early on in Lamarr Wilson's channel on YouTube is Wilson Tech 1, Wilson Tech the number 1, and it's fantastic. It's wonderful. Okay, we'll move on to our second topic. Early on in Google Plus's history, a young Chromium developer wrote an extension that could export all of your Facebook friends so you could circle them on Google Plus. Zuckerberg and company were not amused in the least, and they quickly moved to shut down the Facebook friend exporter. This caused a great deal of controversy, and is perhaps the moment when most of us heard about Mohamed Mansour. Since then, Mohamed has written dozens of extensions and apps for Google Plus, and they have been downloaded millions of times. He's built up a huge fan base here on Google Plus by producing great apps and giving them away. Unfortunately, when Google Plus changed their user interface, it crippled many apps and extensions. Rather than reach out to developers ahead of time to preserve security, they simply put out a post afterwards saying that all users should disable their extensions since they would likely not work anymore. Mohamed wrote a personal post about it that got a lot of people talking. He even said he would stop developing for Google Plus and would focus on Facebook. Then he took that post down. Mohamed is a dear friend, and he joins us now. So Mohamed Mansour, first of all, welcome back to Google Plus Week.
Thank you for having me. A nice introduction, actually. Better than I could say it.
Well, Mohamed, you've had about
that was a long time. That was like 10 months ago for the Facebook.
It was, but that's kind of what puts you on the map to a lot of folks who are not in the the tight developer community and things like that. That was the biggest mainstream story you had to date. Mohamed, you've had about 10 days to think about this over. How are you feeling when you wrote that post, and what are your thoughts about it now? I know you wanted to address that in the show tonight.
Many people maybe misunderstood what the intentions were of the post, most likely. It's because they like obviously many not only myself was frustrated about what happened. Like if you look at the replies and the reshares in that post, it was like over 400, 500 reshares, right? And luckily I wasn't on the what's hot list, so those were basically very hard reshares to get, right? So there were basically people who really cared about the situation, like all the power users most likely, and all the extension developers, every single one of them that are popular. They actually reached out and they said they believe they were frustrated as well because one of many people who did the most popular people who did the apps websites, right? They spent all this time doing websites which gained a lot of traffic. People actually refer to them because they're doing a much better job than what Google's doing, right? Like to manage your circles, manage your there were like without these types of people, do you think Google Plus would have been as much more effective like as it is today? Because when people how I'm going to say this correctly, I don't want to spill words. When people came to Google Plus, there was a lot of things wrong, as everybody agrees. A lot of things wrong. And it was very hard to give recommendations, suggestions, feedback. Then all of a sudden, who came to the rescue? Many developers like me. We came and fixed the small holes that we saw, right? And I'm not the one who spent a lot of work. There's a lot of people who spent a lot of work, like circle count, like G+, all the stats websites, and they all went down, and they all felt the same frustration. But I wasn't frustrated because the extensions went down. They have all the right to change the UI. They have all the right? Every single one, every company in the world has the right to change anything they want. And I love change. Change is awesome to have in an organization. But the change they introduced was pretty radical, as everyone agrees. It was a complete different user experience for people coming on Google Plus. And all I was saying, they have the right to do it, but is it ethical? It's not ethical. Is it the correct thing to do to basically just quickly flip the switch? Maybe is that the way you surprise people? Like, I didn't think that was the right thing to do, because surprising people is right. You'll still surprise people if you release a product. But the whole point of the whole conversation is if you give people the transition period of a transition period is saying that we're rolling out these changes, and the first thing you'll see on your screen is a big banner saying if you want to switch to the new layout, go ahead, right? Say let it be 3 days, let it be 4 days, let it be 1 day transition period, right? Let them have a transition period that will allow them to check the change and roll back the change, because this transition period is what flamed Facebook, what flamed Twitter back in the day, right? Facebook was targeted because they're doing a lot of changes on the UI, and the users are like, for example, and there's small changes. Facebook had small changes, like the chat moved to the right. I'm like, why is the chat there to the right? You know how people were complaining a lot, and people weren't adapting to the change correctly. So then later on, when they acquired FriendFeed with Brett Taylor, he changed the whole organization. He said every time we create a radical change, like a very big change, we have to introduce something called a transition period. That's my whole argument. Why not introduce a transition period to us? It will basically help their users adapt to the big change, right? And it will allow developers to see the change and fix them, right? But instead of doing all that, what they've done, they only released they released only one post saying, everyone, welcome to, like, do you like the new changes? Like 1 minute after it got released, please disable all your extensions. The whole point of developing extensions was, and I'm doing everything for free, right? Like, because it's fun to do it. Not anymore, maybe, but it was fun before. That I developed extensions because it was a challenge to produce those extensions, and I like seeing people happy. So when people come to me, say there's 80,000, let's say there's like a couple thousand people, they come to me or they message me saying that your extension is not working, your extension is not working, your extension is not working, extension is not working, and that really makes us sad, because there's a lot of people who like this extension, and we have to fix it for them, And the whole reason why I'm doing these extensions is for them and to make them happy. And every time they're happy, it makes me even more happy to even do more stuff, right? Like the whole motivation behind my free to open source development is because it makes people happy. So it didn't make me happy because all the work I've done for the last 10 months, from a flick of a switch, it got demoted, right? And when Google replied back, the reply they got back was typically saying, we don't support any third-party people who develop extensions. That's basically how they said it, because they're saying if they're using unofficial APIs, which means scraping the content, which is basically an official API from Google Chrome, because Google Chrome's extension is all about scraping, all about presenting data on a website. So they're saying that we don't support anyone who does extensions on Google+. Then I was like, and that's the standard coming at. I'm like, okay, then you guys, tell you the truth, ever since I heard that, I'm demotivated to build on top of this platform an unofficial way. Like I'm really not. Like I was really happy before, like building an extension every week when Google Plus came out, right? Then eventually, this wasn't the first time. The last time it happened was they always change UI every month, and we didn't freak out. But this time they changed the whole thing, and I like the change. I like the UI, but the way they changed it isn't. Like Alan said something cool last time when we talked about. But you see my point. That's. I don't know.
I say a lot of things cool.
I was motivated. I was motivated before a lot. Like I had a lot of ideas, too many ideas, right? And right now I'm like, okay, should I invest my effort and time to build on top of this platform the unofficial way, knowing that Google doesn't like what I'm doing, right? Because that's basically what they said when they wrote on that TN the Next Web article. Basically, they don't support third-party developers. They don't enjoy those stuff because they're telling people to disable their extensions. So should I continue doing that? It will make everyone happy, but it makes me like very icky and very. So I'm like, instead of doing that, might as well just build a platform from scratch. It's not going to be as good as Google Plus, obviously. Build a platform from scratch, and experiment there. Like do my hacks there. Do whatever I want there. That way I have full control. If things go down, it will not go down. If it goes down, it's my fault they go down. So I'll continue doing like modern hacks of new stuff that come out. Like usually my hacks are basically if a new technology comes out, say a new technology came out yesterday, I spend the same night implementing a feature to make sure to see how cool it is. That's how I usually work. And
Mohamed, let me. We may revisit this when I throw it to the room, but I got two more quick questions here. You're working on a multi-user video chat system for Facebook. It's similar to Google Hangouts. Can you tell us about that? Or it's a
I had an idea for a Hangout app I wanted to do, right? But the idea I wanted to do wasn't the API. Hangout API doesn't support it at all. Like it's impossible. I have to do an extension for it. Then I was like, okay, listen. If I want to do an extension for it, I know the app is going to be really cool. If I was doing an extension for it, who knows what's going to happen a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now. Like it's going to take me time to implement it. The idea I want to do. It's a game idea. It's going to take me time to implement it. And everyone I told the idea to, they were really jazzed about it. They're like, "Holy, you can do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." And I'm like, "Okay, so instead of implementing it on Google Plus Hangouts, and knowing that it will go down within a week or 2 weeks, and it took me maybe because I only have like an hour or 2 hours a day to code after my work, full-time job, like after work, after coming home, dinner, watching some TV. I only have like an hour or 2 hours of coding every day, and it's going to take maybe like one full week of part-time, then another week of bug fixing, to fix all that. Then I'm like, hey, at the end of the day, I'll just implement Hangouts by myself. And tell you the truth, I spent the weekend, I implemented the whole thing, everything in Hangouts you see right now, except apps. Everything you see, I've implemented it. And it's stable. It's not, it doesn't crash, right? And it's working great. But I know people are going to talk. You're cloning Google Plus Hangouts. You're cloning this. You're cloning that, right? But that's why I'm planning to change it the way I want it to look like. So it's going to look completely different. And I'm going to put my ID on it. Then later on, I can build extensions on that platform. And it's not going to be only for Facebook, by the way. It's going to be for all social networks. Twitter, Facebook, Google+. And imagine you can converge between Twitter users, Facebook users, and G+ users, like your friends, if you want them to. So I want it to be for everyone. So, and it's challenging to build it, right? It's people think it's a hard problem to solve, to build a Hangout, but it's been there for many years.
Well, I think they used video.
It was just a bandwidth problem, and bandwidth is no longer an issue these days.
They used video as the backbone, didn't they?
As a codec, yeah.
Yeah. My last question, and then I'm going to throw it to the room. Some folks donate money for your extensions, and you give it all away. Why is that, and where does the money go?
People donated PayPal to me, right? A lot of PayPal. Like I got maybe $100-something on PayPal. I mean, even less, because that was from my Android apps. I put some advertising on my Android apps, so maybe around $80 from my PayPal. So what I did is I'm like, I'm working well, right? I have a nice job. I'm making engineering salary. I don't spend that much money, so I usually give money out to the poor every year, many occasions, because I like giving. So I was like, if I like giving, so why not? If people really want to pay me money, okay. So, and I'm like, okay, let's help Sarah Hill, my friend Sarah Hill. I met on Google+. I think you all know her. She has this Plusketeers event that helps children abroad. I was like, let me make a fundraiser for that. So I made something called Coding for Charity, and I'm trying to put that in all my extensions right now. So whoever wants to pay money, right, they can donate to charity, and it makes me happy, right? And it'll make you happy that you donate to something that makes me happy. So, and everybody who gave me money in the PayPal, I put them all in charities. I put over $300 in that cause, like with my own money. And I basically $100-something, and I matched it, and I paid my own to that charity because it's fun. Let's see what coding can do, and that motivates me, to tell you the truth. People care about my extensions, and they care about charity, and the more I code, the more lives I save, and that's perfect. I don't know. It's like the link. You can put the link up on your.
What's the we go speak it, because most people are.
It's crowdrise.com/code-for-charity.
Okay, if someone could put that as a comment in the YouTube thing, that would be great. Okay, awesome. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to open it up to the room. I know Alan. I don't want to get too into the weeds, because remember, we have a general audience that is not. This is not an app developer conference, so we have to be cautious and not lose all of the folks, the little people like me, who are watching. But go ahead, whoever wants to chime in. Let's just have a little round robin here. Let's lead off with Alan, who's a developer. Any questions for Mohamed Mansour?
I think one of the things that has come up a little bit actually in the YouTube channel, and I kind of want to get your take on it, is what inspires your ideas? Not in a technical sense. You know, you've mentioned that you do a lot of the coding, a lot of the work you do for reasons and purposes. But what kind of inspires your ideas? What made you think, oh, hey, I could build a Hangout? Or that kind of thing?
Um, I usually build stuff that I want myself, and that's basically 30% of all my projects. So 30% of the projects, everything that I find annoying, I know submitting a feedback to Google Plus doesn't go anywhere, as everybody knows. Because look at that. There's 300 million people, and as engineers, we know how to submit detailed bug reports. We know that. But they'll be lost among many clueless people who submitting bugs. Like, oh, this thing doesn't work. I can't make it work, and they don't give detailed information. So how well do they come? Like I tried doing that approach, and it never worked out for me. Actually, 2.5 months ago, I submitted a bug report, and it got fixed today. For example, the notification issue. So what motivates me the most is stuff that needs to be fixed. Instead of waiting for a fix, I fix it myself, right? And stuff I want. For example, in Hangouts, I wanted to screenshot the whole Hangout and capture that moment of one of my extensions in my Hangouts, and that wasn't possible. Instead, you have to screenshot it, and you have to crop it, you have to do all that kind of stuff. So I made an extension that allows you to capture this moment and save it in a gallery, and I loved it. I use it every single day myself because I want to capture moments as I visit people. It's like a virtual camera, right? But the next 70% of the issues are people who I met in real life or met in Hangouts or met in chat rooms. For example, today at work, my colleague from a different department said, oh, GitHub doesn't have this API to extract users, for example. So I'm like, they don't have the API. So what I did for her was I told her, give me 20 minutes. So I made her an extension today at work that basically screen scrapes the whole GitHub users in our internal company and gives her the email addresses. So it's like I did that for her, right? Because when people are really nice and they're humble and like I know they're honest, stuff like that, and I like them, they're really kind to me, and I believe and I could do stuff that they can't, and it can take me maybe 10 to 20 minutes to implement, right? I'll just do it. Like for example, the last time I did an extension when I helped people was I was in a hangout with Ken Smith. He made me meet this blind veteran. He's like, I can't hear the text on the chat on the left. I'm like, you can't hear what I'm saying? He's like, no, I can't locate it with my JAWS application. So I was like, that's strange. So I know Chrome had an API to read text, the TTS API. So what I did instead is I spent, because I met him during the day in my lunch hour while eating lunch. So when I finished work that day, so like it's like at 8 o'clock at night till midnight, I released an extension that will basically talk back to you the words they're speaking on the chat on the left. And they loved it. Like all the blind people loved it because that gave them something to know who entered a hangout. Right now you don't know who entered a hangout, right? But now they will know. They'll have an indication that's saying this person entered a hangout, and I helped them do that, and that makes me happy because I solved a problem that he was really frustrating about. Like Google wouldn't have fixed that, right? Like, because you know how accessibility is really bad in this thing, but so I know I could fix that for him in really short time, a matter of like an hour, 2 hours. So I did that, and I gave it to him, and he liked it. Even before, my friend wanted a way to +1 all her friends' posts, right? She had a valid reason why she wants to do that, because he annoys her. So I made one for her, an extension that automatically +1s everyone's post on the page for her. She likes that, right? So like I like the 70% of my extension, like one extension is Stream Filter. When the Boober Day versus Catterday came out, my friend, which she's a close friend of mine, I met her on Hangouts, and she's basically really, I like her. Many people don't, but I like her. She's really friendly. She's really great in my opinion. She was sad because she was offended about all these people in posts. I'm like, I don't want to see Boober Day on my stream every Saturday, or every Catterday, every Sunday, or whatever the dates are. So I spent actually 7 hours that night because I started implementing it at 7 a.m. in the morning, right? And I finished at like after like 1 p.m., 2 p.m. or whatever the time is. And I implemented that for her and everybody liked it. But now that's broken from the new API. It's broken, so.
Oleg, you had a question?
Quick question for Mohammed. First of all, my new name for you is, based on everything you said, is Saint Mohammed. So we'll just keep that as the official name for you with everything that you're doing. It's pretty incredible. And the question I have, Mohammed, is on your endeavor for the video you mentioned about different networks being able to participate. You said the bandwidth is no longer a problem. So how are you, in other words, don't you need to have pipes to have all this traffic going everywhere? I don't want to get too detailed, but how are you resolving that deal on your own?
No, they're very cheap, the services. They're really cheap, the packages. And there's obviously going to be partners. Like I'm going to partner with someone that will basically a company that provides the bandwidth. Like bandwidth is not an issue. If it is an issue, I'll just I'm just using it to experiment my hacks, right?
Gotcha. Yeah, just
because the video like
a negative deal for you in terms of people seeing that you're doing this and then stopping you from doing it by just changing something on their end, saying like this time that they're saying you can't do this and that's the end of it. I mean,
no, I could always use it as a sandbox, but the thing is, I want if people really like what I'm doing, right? And like I'm inviting some friends of mine to help me implement this as well, like Ryan and Matt Center. They're pretty cool coders. They're helping me implement that as well, and I need a lot of help right now in terms of making sure. Actually, we have a new twist of implementing stuff. So I know people will like it. Like the people like you guys, I know you like it. It's a shame that we can't. It's a shame that we can't get Hangouts outside Google and put it in our own product. You know, like I want to embed Hangouts in my website. I don't want people to come in. Like I want to customize Hangouts in my own taste. You can't do that. It's all Google branded.
But you can with the Hangouts on Air. And when Chichu did a Hangout with us, ironically, he did say that they're working feverishly. That this is a test bed right now where so much of Google Plus is the haves and the have-nots. It's basically they pre-select certain people to have certain things, but they're testing them. And what they're going to do is they're going to allow everyone to have Hangouts on Air, and that's what they're working on. But there are obviously rights issues, as was demonstrated in Germany. You can embed one good thing about the YouTube player, like this is going out live on YouTube, and now they've embedded it to where it's actually part of YouTube Live. It's not just you have to find it, but it's actually a few minutes ago, I don't know what we are now, we were the 5th icon on the youtube.com/live. And you have a permanent embeddable player now for live, and then it automatically reverts to the recorded one wherever you.
But as a developer, Dan, I want to use this technology to build on top of the platform, but on top of it. So it's like I want to use it as an API, but they're not. And what we have been seeing, we're seeing this as not as an API. We're seeing it as a platform. You build inside the platform, not outside it. So you can only basically build on what they give you, like they control you, per se. Like say I want to implement a different layout completely, right? Say I want to make the squares on the corner on the bottom right, and I want to put like a TV screen on a like I want to make a different layout. Like I want to control the layout. I want to embed it in my website. So I want people to come to my website and say, join this Hangout. But the thing is, everything's integrated into Google, so they're trying it to the Google platform. And believe it or not, Google doesn't have all the users. There's more Twitter users and more Facebook users, and why they're left out. Like it's I don't know. You can't do a lot of things with this. I don't know.
Well, part of it, of course, I mean, they always say it's in beta still, and some of this, it's a mixture of first of all, I guess they have the right to do what they want with their platform, and we're all using it for free.
Obviously.
And they're spending a fortune, but they're going to make money in other ways with the integration of Google Plus, Search Plus Your World, all these different things. So it's clearly their focus. And some of this, though, on all of our parts, to be honest, isn't some of this just impatience, like we want it tomorrow? But if you look at where they've gone in 8 months, it's dramatic. You know, the introduction of the Hangout API and other things like that. So it's coming. It's just not coming as fast as some of us would like.
But you know, as
right?
as engineer, what I'm worried about, if I want to build a company, like if I want to build a company around Hangouts, right? Like before, I wanted to build something called Hangout Academy, right? The reason why that Hangout Academy had a lot of buzz because people believed in the idea we had, but the reason why it went down is because it's impossible for a company to build on top of Hangouts. Because look what happened. All of a sudden, Google directly disconnects you from like what happened to extensions. They made a new API, right? The new UI. They automatically disconnect you from that. So if I was building a company on top of Google, how can I guarantee that the API will no longer be discontinued? Because look what happened today. Google just discontinued many products today, many APIs. Like discontinued the patent search API, discontinued a lot of APIs, right? They're all integrating into Google Search instead. So, and last year they discontinued the translation API, the other APIs. So that, like, say I was using the prediction API, right, which is a really hot thing right now, which basically tells you, it gives you a predictive model. If I was going to use it, how would I, like, and I spent all this time developing for this platform. A year from now, how do I guarantee that it will not go down? I can't, right? So what do venture capitalists and investors say right now? They say never build your company around an existing platform. Create that platform yourself, and that's what I'm doing.
Exactly, because look at the VCR and the DVD and even Microsoft. They every couple of years they have a whole brand new operating system that comes out, and whatever you have running on your other one doesn't run on this one, and but it's owned by Microsoft, and this Hangout thing is owned by Google, so you have to follow Google's rules and get Google's permission to do stuff. I mean, I don't understand.
I like what Eric said. Build a video company, not a Hangout company.
Yes, I agree with you.
I think what some of this comes down to is, well, I guess exactly what was just said. What are we as either consumers or as product developers or as people who are using Google Plus in whatever form, what are we expecting? What are we trying to strive for? What are we trying to do? And there are a lot of people who want to build their business on top of Google, and in a lot of ways that's just as dangerous as building your business on top of Facebook.
Because of what you said, Alan, consumers versus developers. That, I think Google wants you to be a consumer. Consume what we put out and shut up about it.
And stay put. Don't go anywhere else. Only stay here. Everybody wants that.
Yeah, but the
that's what a
developers and the
company's dream.
hackers, the hackers and the developers want to be able to manipulate what Google has already done, and Google doesn't want you to do that, and I think that's pretty clear.
Like, my objective wasn't to manipulate Hangouts. We're not creating, like, the reason why I created a Hangouts clone. She's lagging. You lagged
we're losing you.
Like, the reason why I cloned Hangouts, I actually cloned it. Like, I actually made the UI similar to Hangouts, and it took me like a weekend to do that, to prove if the thing works, and it worked perfectly. Like, my family used it, my friend used it, and it was working fine. And the whole point of not using it is that's not my objective to clone it. My objective is not putting it on Facebook that much. So the reason I want to put it on Facebook is because I have real life friends there that I want to interact with, like my mom, my brother, my family. When I move to a different country, I want to communicate with them, right? And Skype doesn't have group chat unless they have, I think, group chat, but they don't use it. They use Facebook. Skype
has a group chat, but they charge you for it.
Okay,
try
what I
to show.
want to do is I want to address the point he was just making, that his mom's not on here, and he could get her to make a.
No, she is. She is on here. I'm just saying she doesn't use this a lot.
That's what I'm saying. My mom's on here. She's 74. Love her to death. She's smart as a smart as a cracker, and my dad absolutely has no interest. But she made a profile. She may have uploaded a picture, and well, that's nice, Dan. And then she went back to Facebook, where she can talk to her grandkids and stuff. So, and her great grandkids. So what I want to do is I want to talk about two users. I want to talk about. I want to bring Priz in, and we're going to talk about Batman. This was a big trending topic, and this, I guess, a guy's name is Bruce Wayne, and he joined, and he had a less than enthusiastic reception from the folks at the Google. And so I want to talk about that. And then the second thing I want to do is I'm going to bring my sister in, and I'm going to sit her here in the hot seat, and I want you to interview her. My sister is an entrepreneur and a marketing expert. She could sell ice to an Eskimo, and she recently signed up for Google Plus at my urging. And I want you to ask her what she thinks. And on that discussion, I'm going to start with Pam, because I know you're going to have some questions for her about what her experience has been. And I want her to have a conversation here, and I'm gonna actually switch seats and get her in here. She's been here the whole time, so and yes, you can ask her any embarrassing questions about me, but maybe, I don't know. I reserve the right to edit afterward. I'll get Lamarr to show me how to edit well. Okay, so
we're going live to YouTube. Just remember that. Dan.
I know. And okay, so first of all, let me get Priz in here, and let's talk about. Batman.
Release Bruce Wayne.
This was a big deal. Release Bruce Wayne. Explain. This was a trending topic. I don't know if it got nuked like Mohammed's did, or censored from it. I don't know how you could have 459 shares or something and not be on the What's Hot list. That's actually,
because the people who shared it.
I do know how you could not be on
the
that
people.
list. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Because the people who shared it were basically.
They didn't share public.
Because the people who shared it were very powerful. They had a powerful followers list.
Well, I mean, it's clearly curated. The goal of the What's Hot list is to combat, in my opinion, the goal of the trending list and the What's Hot list is to capture these newbies who come on and find the quote-unquote ghost town and don't stay. Like both of our moms, and they think maybe if they take the most popular trending things elsewhere, and if they're talked about here, then like Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga, that kind of thing, that those folks might stay a little bit longer, and you can't blame them for that. And I think that's a smart strategy. The fact that they've made the trending topics list was around earlier before the UI change, but it wasn't as prominent and in your face as it is now, and nobody really talked about it. It didn't matter. It was like the incoming list. It was rarely used, but now it's right in your face all the time. And I've learned. We said this I think last week or in one of our news hangouts that I learned about the North Korea test looking at a trending topic on Google Plus. So I think it's a good thing. But I hear you, and clearly they're deciding what's in that What's Hot list. It's not generic. The trending topic list is generic, but they have the right to veto after a while, because you'll see stuff pop up, and that's one of our topics as well that Pam and I disagree on, and I can't wait for this. Thank God we're not on broadcast television, because the FCC would be at my door like Secret Service agents in a Colombian brothel if we talked about that. But let's talk about. I had to bring that in there. That's SEO thing. I'm just kidding. Let me get into Alan. Tell us about the. Okay, you want me to get Pam to do it? On our secret chat, Pam, tell me the Batman story. I don't really know that much about it because I was in the weeds prepping for the show for our first two guests and doing writing and research and stuff like that. Tell us what was the topic? It was Save
Bruce Wayne.
Save Bruce Wayne. Tell us this wonderful story about a young man or a man named Bruce Wayne who wanted to simply join Google Plus.
Okay, so what really happened is way back in the beta days, probably I think he actually signed up the first week that Google was in beta under Brian Leggett, and he was Brian Leggett for months and months, and for one reason or another, someone requested that he got a request to verify his name before they allowed any pseudonyms. And so Brian created a web page and showed it to Google Plus or Google and said, this proves who I am and all this stuff. And they actually validated him, verified him, I mean. And so he was Brian for a long time, and then he opened up a second account under Bruce Wayne. And
Pam, let me just interrupt you for a second. If I remember correctly, Brian Leggett was actually a verified user. He's got the check mark next to his name. Even.
He does, but he did not use like a driver's license or anything to get that verified name. He used false information to get that verification. And so when he goes to Google to say, no, I'm actually Bruce Wayne, this is my actual real name or whatever, and here's my driver's license to prove it or whatever, they banned him. They banned the Bruce Wayne account, and they probably will end up banning the Brian Leggett account eventually as well, because he did something under false pretenses, and that's against the terms of service. You can't try to gank Google, and so that's pretty much the story. He got his Bruce Wayne account got shut off.
Now, as I understand it as well, and I came into this story relatively late. The Bruce Wayne account, he had actually had that running for a while and was sort of using it, and then suddenly, fairly recently, it got flagged.
He's actually had it cut off several times, actually, and okay. He would restart it, and he would fly under the radar or whatever, and as soon as they clued in that he was back or whatever, they would shut it down again.
So I think part of what, the other thing about Bruce Leggett, if I remember correctly, is he indicated that this was a pseudonym he had been using for years, but that he didn't really want to make public, and he suddenly discovered that he was now public on Google Plus with it. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, he was mostly posting to extended circles and circles or whatever, and then Google changed the algorithm or whatever and suddenly extended circles became a lot more public than he was used to, and I think that also created a problem for him.
So I think for regular viewers, they know that my attitude on pseudonyms is that it's a person's name and it should be left alone. Generally, what have you seen the public reaction be to all the brouhaha going on around Release Bruce Wayne?
I don't think that they understand that Google didn't disable his account because of a false name so much as because he used false information to get verified on his first account. And so now they're like saying, well, you're banned. It's not just that they shut the account down, they actually banned him.
Yeah, my understanding is he's actually trying to migrate off Google at this point, get all of his accounts off, because he's afraid they're going to be deleted.
Mm-hmm. So what's this guy's current status? This is insane. This was a trending topic with hundreds of posts and shares.
The Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, the Bruce guy.
The Bruce Wayne account is dead. The Bruce Wayne account is dead. The other, the Brian Leggett account, as of a couple of days ago, it was still live, but I'm pretty sure that it's probably going to get shut down too. I haven't checked.
I saw a post from Brian Leggett today, basically where he's detailing where he's moving all of his accounts to and how he's getting off Google as quickly as he can, because he's concerned about having his account and his data deleted. And I think this kind of goes to a lot of what we've talked about with Mohamed, what we've talked about a lot in the past, that there are real concerns that here we are trusting a company, and and in some ways we have to trust this company, but just how much can we? And if Google does something, yes, they can do whatever they want. I think all of us tend to agree with that, but what are they doing to their reputation when they do these things?
It's specific. It's like getting a credit card under. It's not like getting a credit card, but you have terms of service, right? And you're supposed to read those terms of service. And if you violate those terms of service, the consequences are that you have to face consequences. And these are his consequences. And the truth is that if he hadn't violated the terms of service, he would not have been banned. He was not posting anything controversial, compared to some other people. And he has to face the consequences. And you know what? Is he pissed off? Yeah, he's pissed off. Does he have a right to be pissed off? He should be just as pissed as himself.
Well, I don't know. To say that he violated the terms of service, and we've been around and around on this a billion times. The terms of service at the time, and in fact they haven't changed since then, basically say you should use the name you are known by. Brian Leggett was a name that he was known by.
I understand that, but the whole verification process has its own little set of terms of service, and he actually used false information to do that. That's like giving, you given the company false information to verify your account. That's, to me, that's kind of like identity theft.
Well, I have a question and a thought, considering I'm verified and I didn't do anything except get asked a million times, how'd you get verified? I have no freaking idea. That said, it is quite possible, and I'm not above the shifty morality of, what? As many misfires and as many missteps that Google did with their moving target of, well, here's the rule today, bless them for cheating the system. If you have to cheat, if you have to play dirty in a dirty system, well, then so be it. So you're both right. Yes, there's the terms of service, and we've all carefully read all 162-page terms of service for every service we use, which is to say not, but it's still legal, so it's our own fault for skimming or not even reading, unless some issue comes up. We don't read terms of service, but we're pretty much assuming we know what the rules are generally on all these sites. But when real people get banned, fake people get banned. I mean, it's all over the board. Now we see all the fake people using real-sounding accounts that last forever. I cannot blame the guy one bit for cheating the system. And yes, breaking the rules. But that means that I got the shifty morals then to say, well, you know what, screw it. If Google was a little more straightforward themselves, people wouldn't have to do it. And that's probably a really crappy thing to say, but this is all this continually piles on Google. This is connected to what Mohamed went through. It's one thing after another. Where I started to go downhill with Google is when it's how they presented the pseudonym policy to everybody with the same snotty, superior crap that Zuckerberg would do.
Yeah, but
from that point on is when it went, oh, I see how this is going. You're just, baiting and switching. You guys used to be the hip kids. Now you're just as sleazy as Facebook. Maybe you're not there yet, but you're getting there. I can't fault these guys for doing it because I think people are tired. And it's really depressing to see so many people who like the system. Even the pundits like the system. But they're just being so worn out by this. And there's not like there's anybody more awesome out there doing anything more cool that's seducing us away. It's stuff like this. I can't blame the guy for cheating.
Yeah, but there's the terms of service argument at large across multiple companies, and then there's this argument. A lot of people dislike terms of service because basically a lot of terms of service try to give away firstborn child. This is a community terms of service issue. It's not a legal terms of service issue, which is what a lot of people are getting upset about terms of service in general. In regard to this, everyone knows about this rule. I mean, anyone that cares enough to do it knows about it. And obviously he knew about it, so I mean, if he gets in trouble for doing, if you get in trouble for doing anything, whether it be something extremely trivial or something like first degree murder or whatever, any end of the scale, if you do something that is explicitly against the rules, um, and you know what the punishment is, and you get caught, then you knew you broke the rule. You
Anthony,
knew you were breaking the rule when you did it, and now you're getting punished. So
I don't buy that for two reasons. The first is that at the time the whole real name policy was being tossed around, there were people who were making fraudulent IDs, literally taking driver's licenses and putting their picture in it, and making up fake names and posting that. And to the best of my knowledge, none of them got booted out, even after they made multiple posts on Google Plus talking about what they did and how they did it.
Oh yeah, that was a huge game. It was funny to watch.
A game at the time. The second thing is that when they revised their policy, they essentially said that anybody who was in a problem before, they were welcome to come back on. They reached out to a number of users whom they had kicked off at the time for violating the naming policy. So, they essentially went back and said, look, if you violated our terms of service before, we forgive you. We want to bring you back into the fold. Past sins have been forgiven. So it sounds like in this case, a past sin hasn't been forgiven.
I think there might be more behind it. I just don't know what the real story is, because Google's not going to talk about it, and Brian isn't either.
That's my biggest concern about this whole thing, is that we don't really know what the real story is. There's this tiny part of me that just can't help but wonder if this guy is pulling a fast one on all of us, and he's just laughing every night when he goes and looks at all of the support that he's gotten. Now, I don't know that he is.
Okay,
final
comment, Anthony.
There's this tiny part of me that wonders if it's all a big fake.
All right, final comment, Anthony.
When a company like Google doesn't say, comment on something, that's a standard company policy. But when the person that's being quote unquote wrong doesn't say anything, and no one's saying anything, the person and the company, just me, I tend to think that the person that was wronged is, doesn't have a, legitimate argument, since he's not saying anything.
Okay, what I want to do next is I want to bring in my sister, Kelly. Kelly Harman lives in Manassas, Virginia. And, of course, I've known her my whole life because she's my older sister. And so you've never met her before. But the reason I'm bringing her on is she is a new user to Google+, or a fairly recent user. She recently did her first Hangout. I think this is funny. Today. And she's with her employees, and she quickly discovered the Mustache app. And she said it degenerated from there, but they had fun. So what I want to do is I'm gonna sit her in my chair, and I'm gonna switch to the chroma key screen so she doesn't have to touch anything and break my computers. But she is an entrepreneur type. So what I want you to do is I want you guys to interview her, and she's a new user, and I'm curious what her experience has been. I want to start with Pam, and then I want to get Mohamed to interview her and see what she thinks, and then whoever wants to join in to ask. And yes, you are allowed to ask her embarrassing questions, and I hope she's kind about me, if you wish. But anyway, this will be fun. So I'm going to bring her on. I'm going to switch to just the Hangout for the produced version, and we'll bring her in, and I'm going to let's see here. I'm going to switch the audio thing, and she should be good. You should be able to sit here. And once I switch it, you'll just be able to talk and look at them. This is the live one, right? And then you can just talk to them. When you're speaking, look in that camera. Don't worry about this one because there's a delay there. But we're going to put you on. So I would like all you to meet Kelly Harman, my lovely oldest sister. Here we go. Much older sister.
Oh, he's a dead man.
All right, hang on. Let me switch here. So Pam, and then Mohamed, and then whoever else. Whatever you want to ask her, go ahead. Here we go.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Get right up to the microphone, he says. I will say that today, when we did discover the Google apps where we could put our hats on and mustaches and glasses, that we had a very good time for about 15 minutes. And what I didn't realize is that one of my staff were doing screenshots, which she collected of all of us and sent. And so now she's holding those for ransom for her annual review. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
That's funny. I got kind of put on the hot spot. I really don't. I kind of want to ask you about Google Plus.
Yeah, I'm on the hot spot too, because he didn't tell me he was doing this. So
Yeah.
welcome to my world.
I told her it's easier to ask forgiveness and permission, right?
Yeah. I operate at work like that sometimes.
So what do you work?
I run marketing for technology, a systems integration company out of Connecticut. And we're about 300 million in revenue, and do voice, video, data integration, and physical infrastructure.
And this is your first hangout?
This is, well, other than the one earlier today with my two other, team members where we put mustaches on our face, and I'm not going to do that in this hangout.
Dan won't let me put up my avatars because he says it freaks out the YouTube viewers. So, but yeah, I can be a cat or a skull or a dog or
Yeah, it's awesome.
a monster. Yeah. So, do you use social media? A lot of social media?
I do. I use it extensively. I have a blog, a personal blog called, did I say that? No, it's kellyharman.com. The name of the blog is Did I Say That Out Loud? But it's, oh, he says to spell Harman. Actually, I have a different name. It's kellyoutloud.com. I just bought that URL. So kellyoutloud.com is my blog. And I also have a Twitter account at kellyoutloud. And I tend to, do the Facebook, LinkedIn thing as well. In my business, the company I work for, we have a very integrated social media campaign as well, using all of the social media tools. One of the reasons I'm here tonight is because I love the concept of Google Plus and seeing how I can use that with the company I work for. And we have a lot of subject matter experts that have a lot of really interesting things to say about cloud computing, virtualization, and such, and unified communications. And I'd love to get a Google Hangouts that we could record and put on our YouTube channel to just, share the information that they have with our prospects and customers.
Oh, that's great. That's great. On a personal level, do you like Google? Do you like Google Plus?
It was a little overwhelming at first. I didn't quite understand the concept behind Google Plus. I think, like a lot of new users, I was comparing it to Facebook and not really getting it. And actually, my brother did a great job of explaining the differences to me. And Google Plus is, now I understand the differences. Facebook is, I will typically have met you in real life and have a relationship with you that involves us also seeing each other in real life and being family and friends to be on Facebook. Google Plus is where I get to meet a lot. Did you do that, Dan? No. Google Plus is where I get to meet people I might not ever meet otherwise that just have a lot of shared interests. And so to me, now that I'm starting to understand it, I'm starting to follow people and add people to my circles, and I think it's really cool. I think it could really change the way we interact with people. I mean, I can see you almost getting to the point where you wouldn't even need to leave your house. You would have this rich social life. Am I going up? You would have this rich social life and never even have to leave your living room.
You mean with Hangouts or
with
without
Hangouts?
Hangouts?
No, with Hangouts.
What if Hangouts wasn't there?
If Hangouts wasn't there, I think there are other venues that people have found as well. I think Hangouts, with the ease of this the video conferencing and all of that, to my knowledge, is new to me. And so if there are other alternatives out there, I'm not aware of them. And I think it just sort of takes it to a new level that might have not have been there before.
Can you tell us how Dan sold Google Plus to you?
Well,
what was his sales pitch?
It wasn't so much of a sales pitch. Dan and I are very similar. Our minds are always going 100 miles an hour. We're always sharing ideas with each other, and we were talking about an idea I have about a business, and I said, I was so excited. I was like, do you ever feel like your mind is just going and the ideas are flowing 100 miles an hour? And he goes, yeah, Kelly, it's called ADD, and we both have it. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And so we're very similar. And I guess he didn't have to do too much selling on the Google Plus. I just needed to understand more about how it worked. So, and he did a great job at that.
So it only works for people who want to be social outside their inner circle. Like, for example, say some friends don't want to share their information with people. So when my friends came to Google Plus, they're saying, why this person circle me? Why do I have 20 circlers? Why do I have 80 circlers? And so it's basically just people, if you want to be social outside people you don't know. Is that how you think this platform is about?
Yeah, I think it can be. I think it can be a way when part of my job, before I was in marketing, I was in sales. And so particularly in sales, your job is to go out into roomfuls of strangers and try and strike up conversations with them. And it's exhausting. And just because you do it and you do it well doesn't mean you particularly like it. It just means that it's part of your job and you learn how to do it well. With Google Plus, it's sort of the same thing at first. If you're not used to it, it's like people are just coming up to you or they're adding you to their circles and you're not understanding it. And then the nicer thing about it, though, is you also, if they add you to the circle, you get to, without choosing to even engage with them at first, you can start understanding, like watching their posts and seeing what they have to say and just determining yourself whether or not you want to engage with that person. And if you do, then there's the venue and the avenue for you to do that. And I think that's really cool. There's not a lot of models out there that allow you to do that in such a safe environment. That was not my dog.
Since you mentioned that you're going to use it for identifying people of similar interests, from the onset, did you find it easy to find people on Google Plus, who are of similar interest to you? Or how do you do that? I haven't yet figured out. Other than photography, or what else is there?
Well, I just put in I'm the president of an association here in Washington, D.C. called Women in Technology, and so I'm very involved in the industry here locally, helping women in technology. We have a few different programs helping girls in the classroom through a program called Girls in Technology to really work to keep them interested in STEM and just interested in technology as they move forward in their education. And then we have mentor programs for women who are in the beginning and middles of their career and looking for advice. And then we've also started a program for women who are more senior in their careers and also looking for board seats. And so we have the Leadership Foundry, which helps prepare women for board seats. And through all of that, I think that, I started rambling and now I forgot the original question.
Always happens.
Doesn't it?
For the rest of us also.
Oh, good. Good. What was the original question?
Like I remember.
Oh, you don't even remember either.
I did. What was that?
Hey, let me chime in here. I'm curious what she thinks of the new user interface. If that makes it easier to figure out what's going on and find interesting stuff to look at versus what was there 2 weeks ago.
But you never used the old one, right? So
yes, I did.
You did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just hadn't done a hangout, but I'd been sort of following.
Can you post your profile on the left? Your Google Plus profile?
Can you put my Google Plus profile on the left? You said?
The
On the chat room, sorry.
At Kelly Out Loud?
For the viewers on YouTube, we can.
Mohammed basically wants to be able to follow you, is what he's saying.
Yes, I want to follow you.
Mohammed, just go to the look at my profile and look at who I'm hanging out with, or look at your profile and look at who you're hanging out with, and she should be listed. Oh no, she's not. I'm sorry.
No.
Hanging out with Dan McDermott, not with.
It's all about Dan.
I'm sorry. You're right.
She's not in a hangout.
You're right. She's not in the hangout.
What's your?
I'll post it in a moment. Once I get on.
Now he's all discombobulated. Mohammed, I did add you to my circle. That was the original question. What about people feel about being added to circles to strangers they don't know yet? And okay, now I remembered it, but the answer doesn't matter anymore. So.
But you're a marketing person. You want to reach out to people, right? There's different professions in this like for example, my mom, she doesn't like it when people add her. She's like, why did this person named Ahmed added me on Facebook? I don't even know him.
Right? My wife has the same thing. She cannot believe the amount of people that add her, probably by proxy through me, but she just gets added arbitrarily, like ridiculous amounts, and she really only hangs out with a small handful of people, a couple dozen really.
Like, sure, you can introduce people. Like, say she comes in this hangout, she can introduce to people. Like, and like you're going to like as you said, this might replace video. Like, Google Hangouts is not the only social video platform out there. There's many out there. There's even going to be something called Airtime, by the ex-Napster people, and that's going to be interesting. They're making a social network around video, and it's going to be a different ways of interacting with people now. Like, let's go out for a coffee. No, let's go drink coffee together while we're video chatting.
That's what I mean, Mohammed. That's when I was saying earlier. I watch all of this happening, and I begin to wonder if it's driving us to a society where we're not physically interacting with people, and instead we're in our houses all alone. And we don't even realize it because we feel like we're interacting. I mean, in a way we are, but it's all online. And
you know what I noticed? I've been here for like 11 months or 10 months, whatever the thing is. I was interacting more at the beginning than it degrades usually.
It degrades. In other words, it degrades.
Critical mass.
You become
like I don't hang out them, like, maybe it's only me, maybe I'm the issue. I don't hang out, I don't do video chats anymore when I like random video chats, because I feel that it's like you know when you have to do stuff at your house, like get stuff done.
Yeah.
Right. So like usually before I'd never get stuff done, right? And over time you'll understand, like, wait, what am I doing on a video chat with people, right? They're not giving me money, they're only giving me entertainment, right? So in real life, what do? You usually go to your friend's house maybe once a week, right? So is this platform is making us visit our friends every single day. And
well, our friends are new people.
Our new people, so it's interesting as well. New people, and I've seen many people come and go over the past. But I use this platform because you know how I use it for work. I use it to code a lot. I use it to interact with people because I don't go out. But I really do want to go out. You see, like I really wanted to go out, but I can't go out right now. But
yeah,
so
see,
if I have the opportunity to go out, would I use this platform as much? That's what I think. Like in Googlers, they live in Mountain View, right, in California. Like
Seattle or the Bay Area, right?
Yeah, most of them do. Yeah, they live in Seattle and Bay Area. And tell anyone in this room, how many Googlers hang out?
Very few. Very few, and they are not the ones that work on the product.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, but okay.
I mean, I see the Googlers that parachute in and do the political shake of hands, kiss baby thing, but there are a lot of Googlers that do exist in the plane. So I have a question. Do you
the
live
only
near
Googlers
Dan?
I know, the only Googlers I know that come in, I'm not gonna name names. The only few Googlers I know that don't work on product, that come in that don't work on product, are the ones, like, I just know 3 of them out of my 80,000 followers, right?
Mm-hmm.
3 of them only. And the rest are basically, they just pop in with their political stuff, as Eric said, which he said it pretty nicely. Like, they work on a Hangout team, but they only come in to talk. Some of them come in to say hi. Some of them come in to say Hangouts. But how many
or
Googlers
they're engineers that are sent out?
We got away from interviewing her, I would point out. I just want to circle back. We had a comment from YouTube that I want to quote here and get your reaction to.
Sure.
This was Rendaler said, "I love having random people add me because of something I posted publicly. I have Asperger's, and it's allowed me to find more people I'm able to have conversations with comfortably. I replied to him, do you ever get bothered when you post publicly and don't get the kind of response you expect? I know I do, for example." What are your thoughts on both of those comments?
I would
can
say,
repeat them if you want.
no, I would say that I agree with the statement that it allows you to meet some people who have a shared interest or a shared concern that you would not meet otherwise, and to be able to perhaps speak a bit more freely with them because you're all, looking at, all have the same goal or the same interest in mind. And so I have seen that happen with me as well. When I post a blog or an article on my blog, I write funny stories about my family, and it's one thing when your family says, that was a nice story, but when total strangers give you feedback and then want to talk to you about it and share their similar experiences, that is a validation that it's just great. And so regardless of whether you have Asperger's or whether you're just looking, you're interested in gardening, or you have just funny stories to tell, to find people with like interests is a great thing online. And so I think that in my opinion is if you post something and you don't get the reaction that you want or that you expected, and that's happened to me as well, I think for me it's just like, okay, so what was the reaction and how did they interpret that? I remember posting something once that I thought was very funny, and I had a woman answer me back and say she was very upset about it and felt that I had behaved very inappropriately in my response to this incident, and it just sort of shocked me because I was like, oh, and then I thought about it. I was like, oh well, yeah, I guess you can see it. If you didn't really know me and you didn't know my personality, I can see where you would interpret that in that manner. So then I just let it go. But yeah, it's going to happen. You can't put yourself out there without getting negative as well as positive feedback.
I have a question for you about family dynamic. Do you live near Dan?
I do. Our whole family lives. We have my brother and I have a sister, Leslie. She's the middle child, and my parents, and we all live very close to each other.
The reason that I ask that is you actually have a lot of different roles. It sounds like you live near family, so there's not like a huge distance thing where you're using networking to keep up. You're a working professional dealing with marketing, kind of state-of-the-art technology. You also have some other roles that you can fit into, just general socialization with friends you already know. And also the fact that you're female brings a whole new dynamic that actually a lot of guys don't have to deal with online. And any amount of time in public hangouts will certainly make that crystal clear. I had noticed something from a 2009 report that Norton Security put out that was talking about life and love online. And of the online population, which is about families where ties are strong and the families are online, 14% of the entire population, more than two-thirds improves, more than two-thirds say the internet improves their, the family dynamic and the family relationship. And I always hear that there's a lot of criticism about, well, Facebook's where all the friends and families are and who wants them. And then you've got others that are in situations where maybe they're lonely in their real life. Maybe they have a spouse that's deployed overseas. I see this a lot in gaming communities where there's lots of soldiers' wives that are at home with the kids, and they're playing and they're being social there. How do you I don't know what category you might identify with the most, especially when I guess it comes to the fact that the random stranger element, I think, can put off a lot of people, and you're thrown into the wild to figure it out on your own. You've got some built-in support. I mean, you've got Dan, and it's also your job, so you might not be a fair person to ask this to. But I am kind of curious about that, I guess, from the perspective of being a female online, but also just somebody who wants to either meet new people, which is increasingly harder as we all get older, incidentally. We're not like kids and we're dating and, we're married,
Yeah.
we have kids and mortgages and things. I guess the core of the question is, do any of those kind of loose ends like concern you, that you have to kind of go out there and forage, or that others like you might need to go out there and forage and figure it out in who knows what kind of environment? I guess personally.
So that was a long string of questions. But just to start at the beginning, I would say that the online communities or Facebook and probably not Google Plus so much, but certainly Facebook has allowed our family to stay in communication, even though we live within a minimum at the most I'm an hour drive away. Everybody else in my family is actually closer. Between my blog, my brother's show, excuse me, and Facebook, we're able to keep in touch with each other more than we would normally. I need a drink of water. Hold on. Sorry. And so in that aspect, I think it has helped our family. Even I sound like I'm crying, but I'm not. I'm just losing my voice. That's good. Thanks. As far as the total strangers reaching out to me, I think it's the venue in which they're reaching out to you. So if I get a total stranger sending me a message through LinkedIn, or a total stranger commenting on my blog, I interpret it that one way. If somebody reaches out to me on Facebook, I'm a little bit more standoffish, because for me, Facebook is that personal relationship I have with people. And so I think, and in Google Plus, because of the format, once you get it, and I can't say this is for, if you don't really understand the purpose of Google Plus, you probably wouldn't feel this way. But once you get it and total strangers reach out to you, then it's like you understand why.
So it sounds like you're saying that from your perspective, the purpose of Google Plus is to essentially establish new connections, while the purpose of Facebook is to maintain old connections, and that Google Plus can't or shouldn't or something be used for those old connections? Brad, I was hoping to drag out the question until you recovered.
That was. I think I'm okay now. So, yes. What?
Okay. So, and I guess I find that interesting, and this is an argument that I've always found a little odd, since Google, when they build Google Plus and when they promote their circles, which they promote a lot more than other aspects of it, talk about how you can create circles to share things with your friends, with your family, not share them with your coworkers. How do you see, and I'm kind of asking you as both a social marketer and as a person who's using it, how do you see Google's statements on this to conflict with that perception that you have for them?
Well, when you talk about Google's statements, I don't know too much about what those statements are, and so I can't really...
The statement is the first thing you see on plus.google.com before you log in.
What is it? What do they say? Everything here
I'm not sure either, Alan.
Hang on a second. I will bring it up.
I think I just failed the first test. I'm
Well,
not going to get invited.
I've been here
back.
since day one too. I have no idea what he's talking about.
It's a page that everyone...
Apparently that everyone ignores, but you. It's like that terms of service that everybody's been reading for the credit card.
I think he's talking about real life sharing or something. I forgot.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone forgets it, but it's and as soon as I load it up in a new tab, I will quote it for everybody.
Do you, do you remember you reading about the concept of salons? People would have a salon in their home and invite, intellectuals to come and share ideas and such. And I think it may happen to a certain extent still, but that has gone by the wayside. I know I live in Northern Virginia, and for people who commute an hour and a half each way to literally drive 20 miles to work and then work all day and then come home, there's not a lot of opportunity to socialize. And really, especially if you don't have kids, right? Because kids think they're always involved in stuff. And so what Google Plus does is it gives you that alternative to begin to socialize with people that you wouldn't have a chance to meet otherwise. But there's also no other place. If there's that market, that town square, the concept of that what they used to call the third place that you used to be able to go to, that's going away. It used to be, for me, it used to be Barnes and Noble, but now I have a Kindle, so I don't even have that anymore. So
okay, what I am quoting is if you go to plus.google.com without having signed in already, it brings up some promo screens. The first promo screen says, circles, share the right things with just the right people. Just like in real life, you don't want to share everything with everyone. Circles are an easy way to share some things with close friends, others with your family, and almost nothing with your boss. Now this is the first promo that Google has about Google+. And I've always seen this as something of a dichotomy with people who say that they're on Google+ to meet new people and to share things publicly.
I would say that's a dichotomy only because anybody can add me to their circle without asking my permission. So if my boss should so choose to add me to a circle, he's able to do so, right? So I don't get that last part, but maybe I'm just not sophisticated enough yet on Google+.
Kelly, I'd like to ask you a question. My name is Bruce, and
Hi, Bruce.
Work in the healthcare business, and I manage a remote sales team, and I'm very connected to our director of marketing back in our home office in Florida. I'm really curious about your experience with the Hangout today from a couple standpoints. The team I manage work anywhere from New Smyrna Beach to Seattle, Washington, and I'm assuming that when your team got together on Google+, you weren't all in the same building testing it, but your team was in some different places as well?
Yes,
Okay.
My company is in Connecticut. The sales and marketing and my team is in Connecticut. I live in Virginia.
So there are a lot of different ways to do
Yeah.
video conferencing. You can do Skype Group Premium. You can have a very expensive Cisco system and everything. But I have two questions for you. The first question is, what did you think about Hangouts as a collaborative tool when you have a team that's spread out? I don't know if I know you played around with the mustaches and the hats and everything.
Well, we also did screen sharing. I shared my screen with them. That's exactly what I was very interested in finding out, because I have one of my team members is in California. I have another one that's moving to Florida. I have 3 that are in Connecticut. I live in Virginia. I have a couple contractors I work with. That one's in Washington State and one's in Denver, I think it is, Delaware. So we're everywhere, and there's nothing. The face-to-face communication really helps, particularly in marketing. I was very impressed with. I mean, I don't think we ever did get past the mustaches. I think the entire meeting, I had a pirate hat on. And I kept just swapping out glasses. It was ugly. But I think that once we get past the novelty of that, possibly, we are in marketing, so we're a little immature when it comes to stuff like that. And I can see this going to hell in a handbasket. But I was very impressed with that. The screen sharing as well. I've used things like join.me to do screen sharing, which is a great tool.
Right.
And I've used Skype extensively. I did a lot of consulting work with companies in Europe, and Skype is the de facto means of communications over there for a lot of companies. And I felt the quality was right up there.
My second question has to do with the marketing side. I mean, we're using social media, we're developing iPhone apps and Android apps, trying to find different ways for instance, for lead generation. I mean, generating leads and getting a nice high conversion rate and finding good quality leads. And I'm wondering if you would see value in a Hangout. For instance, let's say let's say I just wanted to throw up a Hangout, and I did a Google Hangouts with extras, and I put the name of the Hangout was Healthcare Alternative, and just kind of dropping a hook in the water, so to speak, and just getting some people to come in and making a presentation and spreading the word that way. Or on the other hand, on the other side of the marketing thing, is with our particular business, we're looking for ways to connect our community together. And I'm wondering if you would think maybe something like Google Hangouts, especially the way your brother does it with the on-air thing, where you could have an event where we have 45,000 members in the U.S. who use our healthcare program, could come together at different times, like have an evening with our president and CEO. We're fixing to start a new group share program, and here, if you want to find out more about it, we're going to do a live broadcast and so forth. Do you see Google Hangouts being good in lead generation and marketing and building community? Because one of the things we really want to do is see our word of mouth referral percentage go higher. So what do you think about that?
I think that it has the potential to do that, but not yet, because not enough people are familiar with it. In that, I want to do Google Hangouts just as you described with the subject matter experts at my company, so that because they're spread out across the country, this is a great venue for us to have the conversation and to get it taped, and then to take that tape and put it on YouTube, and then to use that. It's almost like using Google Plus to create the content, and then using some other tool to actually disseminate that content until people get more and more used to Google Plus. I was walking through everyone on my team, getting them set up in Google Plus, getting them to understand, and so we spent some time on that this morning as well. So I think you've got that learning curve. I think we're still early adopters, but overall, I think that using whatever it is you create within Google Plus as a tool to create leads along with some other integrated stuff is a very good idea.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate it.
Sure. Well, I think if there are no more, are there any more? If there are no more questions,
have you used Google Apps for your office? Have you thought of using Google Apps as a? You said you work for.
Yeah. I don't use Google Apps for the job I have now, which I have had for about 18 months. And prior to that, I had my own marketing consulting company for 8 years. And during that period of time, I used a number of Google apps extensively. I have Google Voice. We use Google Docs. I used the email, the calendar that we all shared. I used a lot of freelancers for my company. And so I found that there were a wide variety of Google apps. I suspect I may have even used some of St. Mohammed's tools that he created at some point. But yeah, I'm a big Google fan.
Do you think that's dangerous to be a big Google fan?
I didn't until I listened to you speak tonight, and that kind of surprised me. And so maybe it is more so than I thought.
It's like being tied to one big.
At what point does it, are you no different than Microsoft?
Well, they're not.
He's going to work for Microsoft.
Only thing that Microsoft is not making too much money out of ads. That's the only big thing I can think of.
No, I meant like tying yourself to one platform. It's like you have a lot of Apple fanboys, right? They tie to itself for Apple iPod, Apple this, Apple that. It's thinking to be the same thing with Google, tying Google this, Google that. There's no choice anymore, right? So at least in Linux land, I'm a Linux person. In Linux land, you have a choice to do whatever you want, right? But we're not given a choice here. You're forced to follow their footsteps the way they want you to follow.
I disagree on the point that you're saying you don't have a choice. You always have a choice. You just finished saying that you're a Linux person. We have the choice to choose the path of least resistance, and we have the choice to select whatever tools are the easiest to use, because we don't have the time, interest, or energy to learn how to use the alternatives. And the alternatives may sometimes be a little bit more difficult or have a slightly longer learning curve in the beginning. And so I would say that we do have choices. Some of us just...
I meant like, since like I use a lot of Google products, I meant if all of us use Google products, it's going to be harder to make that choice to move away.
I don't think we're ever going to be at a point where we all use one. Human nature is such that it's not going to happen. There will always be somebody out there who says, I'm not going to go with the crowds. I'm going to make something different and better. And then somebody will go out there and do it.
Mohamed, before you go, just a quick question.
You have to say something embarrassing about Dan. You have to give us a little secret, like did he suck his thumb or pee the bed or anything like that.
You know,
she can't talk.
He has
awesome.
I will tell you, he has been an entrepreneur all his life. And he has been when he was 4 years old. He sold all of our, like, you know, the little things your parents have around the house, decorative items. He sold them all to the neighbors. He set up a fruit stand outside our house when he was like 6. I mean, it's just Dan is a serial entrepreneur and he's brilliant. And sometimes it's
why is he doing this then? He should continue to.
Yeah.
Well, he does this, but you know, he also owns 3 newspapers. He's a publisher, and
he owns 3 newspapers.
Yeah.
Media is marketing.
Yeah, he does quite well for himself.
Yep, he does the Lynchburg Times, right?
And he does the Lynchburg Times, the Warren County Report, and the Frederick County Report.
But that's not embarrassing enough. You promised something embarrassing. I'm not saying you promised, but that was Pam's original question, right?
Yeah, but all the stuff I know that's embarrassing is like really embarrassing.
We'll contact you off air to get that recorded.
Ignore the terms of service, make a fake account and post it. It's okay.
Yeah, she should expect
or
some limited
she can make
posts.
a page, right? So.
Right.
No.
That's it. We're gonna have a page now. Dirt on Dan.
That's actually a good Dirt on Dan. I like that.
I thought you said jerk off, Dan. I'm like, what? That's what I saw you.
No.
Sorry, Dan.
Dan has actually stepped away for a minute and left me here hanging.
You're doing a great job. You should just take the show. We'll have him in as a sub.
Now we know that.
I'll be like, who was the guy that used to fill in for Here's Johnny? What was his name? Ed McMahon. Ed McMahon. I'm gonna be Ed McMahon, and I'm gonna start selling. What was it? The lottery ticket.
Publishers Clearinghouse.
Publishers Clearinghouse. Except it'll be published by Dan's publishing company. Well, it was nice talking to all of you, and thank you for
nice
easing me into my first official hangout.
Dan.
Thanks.
We hope to see you again in the future.
Yep. Drop by sometime when you get time.
I will, thanks.
Mohamed, I know you're about to leave, so just a quick question from something you said earlier today. You said that Google doesn't like developers to write extensions. I'm thinking.
No, they don't like developers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they don't want.
Why is that? I mean, isn't that counterintuitive? I mean, if they're
trying not to. They're not making it easier on us. They don't want to make it easier on us. This is what they said to me on the phone. They said they don't want to make it easier on us. That's why they're adding all these class names.
But the stuff you're doing, if it's going to help people and more people are going to like it and end up in Google Plus, isn't that something good for them? Somehow I can't figure out the logic behind that. Just your opinion about that.
But what they told me on the phone was that there's how much 160 million people and only like a handful. So what is like they're focusing on the entire crowd.
Right.
So I told them what you told me exactly. And the
No,
response I get was disappointing.
I'm not.
But it's okay. It's okay.
I'm not saying that they don't think like that, but I'm just wondering why they do that. You know what I'm saying? What's the root reason why they want to do that? But that's okay. Another thing.
I don't know. I don't know how they think.
Yep. And another thing you mentioned is.
Actually, it's cool for me that I'm doing my own stuff now because it's challenging at the same time. And I'm doing stuff that I don't even know. I'm like I didn't know it was possible. I just put my like hands on the keyboard and started coding one step along the way, and every time I code, it shows me new things, and eventually it's working. And like I don't code. Like me, when I code, I usually make a high-level design of what's happening, like what are the parts I need to cover. Then I started hacking on the areas I want to hack without knowing if they're going to work or not work.
Right. And another thing you mentioned is, I'm thinking about the transition period you mentioned. Do you think it's actually Google should have a registered set of application developers or extension developers whom they can...
that's too much work.
Okay, all right, yeah. So
they should make it like they did the same thing with Gmail. They did the same thing with other products. I don't know why they didn't implement that feature here.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought there is some way.
They hurried everything, in my opinion. They rushed everything.
Did they do that for Chrome extensions? No.
Chrome, they have development channels.
Right. So, I'm not saying that anybody subscribes to that channel is potentially a developer, but somehow if you authenticate, that you are a developer indeed, and there is a way for Google to actually give out information to you much in advance, considering the transition period you mentioned. I'm just asking whether do you think it's a good way to do that, if Google is listening.
It's always great. It's always great. I don't work at Google, so I wouldn't have any pull on anything.
Hey Mohamed, how old were you when you first started coding?
I started late, when I was. Okay, I worked so far for 4 years. 23. I did like 2 years. I think 21. When I was 21, I started coding. Because I was bored in electrical engineering. I actually didn't, I learned, I won't lie, I learned when I was like 19, 18, I learned C code, C programming in class. I didn't even know any, I actually got like a D plus in that class, right? And I didn't even know how to do a for loop. That's how much I didn't know about computers. Like, I just all I knew about is different stuff like hacking and like real hacking, but I never knew about for loops or while loops or do while. I knew what they meant, but I never wanted to learn it, right? But then I had an urge of how do you build a website, how you build a login portal, how you build a calculator program. Every time I saw, once I got more into computers, I was looking into those stuff. So it was more intriguing to me than knowing physics, for example. So I switched. I was first chemical engineering. I dropped out of chemical to go electrical. Then from electrical engineering, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm more curious about computer software than anything else. Then when I was 21, I switched to software engineering. When I was 20, I switched to software engineering. Ever since then, I started doing my own projects on the side. By myself.
Mohamed, how old
I didn't
are you
learn
now?
from school. I learned I forced myself to learn.
Mohamed, how old are you now?
27.
Oh my God, you're whipping apps out in like 10 minutes and you're 27 years old. That's amazing to me.
I've been programming for 6 years only, so.
Yeah,
and that's actually kind of old comparatively. When you look at some of the things that are out there, I mean, how old was Matt Mullenweg when he built WordPress?
True. I mean, it's like some of that blue guitarist kid. He was like 16 years old and he rose to the top of the charts. His name escapes me, obviously, but yeah, that's amazing. Okay, what I'm gonna do.
But when I was 22, I built my own framework in PHP. I did my own blogging framework. I called it Moblog. I'm serious. It was before WordPress, actually. Actually, not. Was it before? Before our new WordPress. Actually, no, it was WordPress. Wait, there was a blog where you have to pay money back in the day. Like Site Apart? No.
The Blogware platform.
Yeah, movable type, right?
Yeah, movable type. Yeah, that's it. That's
mobile
it,
type, yeah.
So I was like,
Blogware.
I was like, I don't want to pay for that. So that actually, at that time, I think 2001, I was like, screw that, and let me learn PHP. So I learned PHP. I made my own blog, and it wasn't like the blogs right now where you have helper codes and you just write one word and on Mac it creates the steps for you, like the racks and stuff like that. And not like that. I had to implement everything. I had to learn databases and It was kind of cool.
Mohamed, there's a question on YouTube for you. Where and how did you learn how to program?
I'm pretty much I don't believe in reading too much. So the first time I learned was I picked up these books I downloaded online about PHP. It was my first language, and I forced myself to understand it. So every book has like examples. So you go through the examples, and they're pretty coding books are really fast. Just go through the examples and you build what they build. But after 2 years doing that, I realized that I learned the wrong. After a year doing that, I learned the wrong way, because they never taught me about design, never taught me about art. Maybe I picked the wrong books, right? Then I actually read about design.
Or the wrong language.
I actually, tell you the truth, PHP was the perfect language at that time, because to build a PHP app, all you do is download the LAMP stack, install it, and just put a file there, and you start hacking. Everything else is taken care of. Everything. So there's no burden of doing anything. You just install it and you're done. Like in Java right now, what do you have to do to do Java? You have to install Eclipse. You have to install Java. You have to install MySQL. You have to install everything separately, right? It takes more time, and especially Java, it's all about configuration. It fails. And for Python, there wasn't an installer way back then, but PHP was perfect because there was a lot of resources online. The IRC channel was. So I'll tell you, the way I learned was basically I asked too many questions on IRC. It's an internet relay chat, and everything I didn't know, I asked questions and I helped people. So the more you help people, the more you learn. So I was continuing helping people every single time and learning while I helped them. I went on Yahoo Answers. So everybody who had a question, I used to go on Yahoo Answers, answer the question, so I learned more stuff. Like someone told me, implement me what do you call that, bank application, right? It's like to do accounts and stuff like that. So I spent like 2 hours answering that question.
Okay, what I'm going to do now is...
It was nice.
What I'm going to do now is we've got several topics here. I'm going to throw the show over to Alan so I can walk my sister out to her car, because we're right near a state park, and there could be wolverines or mountain lions or bears or what have you. Crazy stuff. I love being next to nature.
And Dan will save me from any bears that come
Yes,
by.
I will personally defend her.
Yes.
Punch those bears in the face. That's what I do.
Absolutely. But hey, how about a big
10,
round of applause for my sister Kelly, who was awesome in her first official hangout. Wasn't that great? Wasn't that terrific?
I just want all of you to know that it was really hard for me, because what I really wanted to do the whole time he was talking is go like this. While he was
Dan, your job
around.
security is slipping.
You know?
And I didn't, so there.
And I got to tell you, I have two sisters, and they're both amazing. And I'd love to get my other sister on, who's a nurse. And I'm so proud of her, too. Both of us are. And she's awesome. And if I can ever get Leslie on here, that would be terrific. Yeah. Because she's not neither one of these two are tech geeks. Kelly is more of a tech geek than Leslie is. But they're basically normal people. You know, they're the soccer moms, but they like tech. And they...
I was never a soccer mom.
Well, you know...
I was never a soccer mom.
That was for dramatic,
Okay.
you know. But I'm just saying that it was great for Kelly to see this, because Kelly's going to get more into this, and she's going to hopefully do some shows.
Is that what it's called, side effect or special effect or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. She's going to hopefully do some shows on Google+, and I'm excited about that. And so what I'm going to do now is, Alan, I know you're looking at the doc for the topic title. Why don't you get on? I think Eric Rice has a great topic. I'm going to throw it to the room. And Alan, if you could run things for a moment while I escort Kelly out past the black bears and the wild turkey groups or whatever you call them. I'm not sure what several wild turkeys are called exactly. Perhaps a flock, as Kelly suggested. But I'll be right back. And Alan, if you could take over, I would appreciate it. And so there. Go, Alan.
We shall do our best, sir.
All right.
So, Eric, I know one of the topics that's in our show notes for this evening was that you had talked earlier about about recruiting people who are multilingual to try to help out new users and get them started in Hangouts. And Perhaps you could describe a little bit what your thinking was on that and what you're hoping to do.
Well, it was actually a two-part process. This project. The backstory: when Google redesigned the interface, they gave Hangouts a prominent and proper place on the main navigation. Before, I mean, it was basically a link just shoved somewhere on the side. And it was very difficult to find Hangouts, and most ways that people found Hangouts were using an extension. Mohamed wrote an extension called My Hangouts. There's another app out there called Hangout Canopy, and it shows you all the Hangouts. They're very popular, and this is how people found Hangouts. Now that the Hangout button is right there on the side and it's kind of built in, the population of Hangouts and the number of Hangouts has exploded over the course of the past week. And with that has come very unique social interactions.
Now, before you continue, let me just interrupt. Have you seen a large list on the Hangout page compared to what we would see in Hangout Canopy or Mohamed's extension? Is it a full and accurate list, or exactly what's going on?
You know, I've never compared because it's kind of sloppy. Google's design is sloppier because at some point you see like the nice, you know, a few, and then essentially they're running a search that says is a Hangout. It's not terribly elegant. It's better than nothing, but I've not actually done a one-to-one comparison. But the population explosion though really made it go, okay, well somebody's able to figure out Hangouts from that. And of course they changed it so you can't see the names of people. You see these giant thumbnails. You got to hover over to see who the people are. So
and they still integrate the circles to know who in the Hangout is in your circles.
Right. So it's kind of, there's a lot going on there. With that, there have been an amazing amount of international, an onslaught of people from all around the world. And at first, the thing is, okay, we're noticing a lot of people that don't speak English. They're speaking any language from any of the European countries, lots from India, lots from the Middle East. Is there a way that we can put up little graphics? And I use a variety of software to be able to, you know, I when I'm going to be away, I'll throw it up right now. I just throw up a little "Be Right Back" sign, right? Is there a way that we can communicate with people to say, hey, you might want to mute your mic, right? You got too much background noise. And on top of that, we also notice certain, a lot of the Hangout regulars notice a certain behavioral pattern and just people coming in, barging into conversations, even though someone's talking. So the first part of it was, hey, let's put together circles of people that are native speakers. I don't want Google Translate or any translate software. I want a native speaker that understands a language so we can come up with some very basic bullet points of, hey, here's what you might need to say to somebody who you can tell, oh, they're speaking, you know, Finnish. They're speaking an Arabic language. They're speaking one of the Indian languages and so on. And then that evolved into noticing that there were certain patterns and behaviors that were happening with the same type of users from specific countries or regions. And I really wanted to know why, because I had been in so many Hangouts where new guys would come in and immediately start just talking, even addressing me. So it's, you know, it's not like an accident. I would be having a conversation with you just like I'm doing right now, and somebody comes in and, hello, Eric, hello, what are you doing? Where are you? Like I was totally in the middle of a sentence. You know, kids don't even do that. I mean, sometimes kids do, but at least kids figure out, all right, I know I got to wait and try and interrupt at some point. And I ran across a Google Books search result, a book called Cultural Intelligence. And it talks about doing business internationally. And it turns out that there are very distinct conversational patterns for different regions. In America, English-speaking Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Britain, basically the West, we take turns. We're only comfortable with 4 seconds of silence in conversation before it starts to creep us out. In Asian countries, there's a pattern called halting, where somebody will say something, and then the listener will stop and reflect. And there can be up to 30 seconds of silence. That would never work in a Hangout. And then, and this was where the light bulbs went on, in South American countries, the Mediterranean, particularly France and Italy, the Middle East, Northern Africa, and some parts of India, it is perfectly acceptable to just immediately start talking. It's just layers and layers of conversation. There's no waiting for breaks. It is that rapid fire. Everyone is just mowing it down. Now, for us in the West, that's like, whoa, stop, no, mute, whatever. For them, it's totally normal.
So it sounds like part of what you're trying to do here is to get these different cultures to A, understand it, and B, try to find a hangout culture where you can all kind of play on the same field.
Right. What happens in an international forum? And, you know, there is, I was trying to explore, there is a protocol, and I'm probably mispronouncing it, Moed Inglesi, which is an English meeting, and a lot of professionals in the Middle East recognize that as, oh, you want to have English meeting protocols, which means probably a difference in communication style. The same way that if a Westerner goes to Japan, it's so obvious how things operate in Japan that you quickly adapt to the cultural difference. But we can't speak the language, you know. And then, of course, if you're a woman, wow. I've just the onslaught that women get in here, even if they just have a picture up and they're not on video, that's the only thing that's being focused on. There is no protocol, and there's not really a way to handle this other than attempting to communicate the best we can without knowing the language. But we're also totally not aware of this protocol. I mean, I was not even aware of it. I'm like, what culture in the world possibly? Then I started thinking about it, going, you know what? French people, when I talk to them, they drag out words to fill up every space so that there is no break. And so it's always feeling like a constant interruption.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know
some people are Italian and say, oh, yeah, that we do that all the time. I'm like, okay, so there's something there that we can explore.
Well, I know this is going to be a sensitive issue, because I know this is one of your hot button issues. Is there any technological component for Google Plus that you see in assisting with this sort of cultural differences? That if you could put a wish list and hand it over to the Hangout team, and we have to remember that some of the Hangout team are in Zurich, so there's a vague chance of this. Is there anything that you would like to see technologically in Hangouts to assist with this?
Well, that answer is loaded, and Pio's got a question. So just let me try and as carefully put this out as possible. There are some very simple controls that could be put into place, except internally and politically, it has been decided, and I have received this from multiple sources, mostly on the engineering side. My only gripe is the people that come out to feel what's going on the street are the engineering team. I don't know who the product people are that actually make the decisions, but moderation controls are off the table. That has come from David Bennett, that has come from Chi Chu. The simple fact of taking control of a room, trying to have some semblance of order, is completely off the table for an ideological belief of some organic method.
Yeah,
Barring that,
I knew this was a hot button issue for you.
You're right. I'm trying to be very careful and calm about it. So, without moderation controls, block the heck out of anybody that's got a name and a language that you don't like, and hope you don't come off as an accidental racist. Because I see it now, where in the public hangouts, it's, oh, Arabic characters, block. Well, maybe they'll get the point. We've tried, some friends of mine, we've tried to do dilution, where, hey, can we have maybe a 6:4 ratio, and will the presence of that many people influence it, you know, safety in numbers kind of thing? That's not something that's terribly organic, right? We're trying to come up with, when your hands are tied and you can't get control of the asylum, you've got to be inventive and creative. So yeah, I don't know. That's where a lot of brains need to come together, and a lot of people smarter than me need to.
Let me do that.
Let me turn it over to Pao.
Yeah. Oh, Pao, I'm sorry. Yeah, you had a question.
Pio is the name. Anyway,
I'm sorry. My apologies.
You see, I realized when I hi everybody. I didn't say hello before. I see when I participate to Hangouts that there is such a thing that, like you said, a difference in culture. I'm, by the way, multilingual. My mother language is Italian, and I speak Spanish and French and English, of course. But what you said about Italian is not true. Is the fact that we in Italy we try to jump into the conversation at any point. I don't find it true. I think it's a matter of how you perceive the conversation and how you were educated into a conversation. What is lacking here in the Hangouts, I believe, it's the control, like you said, a moderation control. Let's say, for example, you were talking for maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and I had the need to interrupt you at the point of your exposure. And if, let's say that I had a little hand here when you hover to my picture, like when you are in school, you raise your hand if you want to talk. And if I could put inside the Hangout somewhere a hand that I can raise, you would know that I would like to interrupt you and pose you with a question.
Somebody did that. What? Does anybody remember a service that had like little hand raises, little icons?
WebEx
that sounds
does
very familiar.
And also,
we've
I
people,
just did that right here, like this.
We've got people talking about it in YouTube saying the same thing, a hands up button that other conferencing software has. So it's out there.
Oh, to continue, Pio, because that just sounded very familiar, and I think that's a wonderful idea.
And also, okay, usually when let's say I like doing interviews, and I've been doing that for the last since I got Hangout on air, I started the interviews. What I do is that I usually go from left to right, and as I introduce my guest, first, like if I'm looking at my screen now, I see Alan to my left, and then is Chad, and then is Eric, and that is me, and then is Shrik. So if you follow that order, that is also understood by the Western world as a reading process, a reading order, like we read from left to right, it will become more easy for the people who are in the Hangout to understand how the flow of the Hangout goes. Like, for example, now I stop talking, and it would be Shrik turn to talk. And
what if I'm from Israel or Saudi Arabia? We read right to left.
Yeah, I understand that. I was coming to that.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, but while we can adjust to the democracy, let's say if we were 8 people who were from Saudi Arabia, then we will go the other way around. You know what I mean? So now, as I finish talking, I say, okay, Shrik, it's your turn. And if you say, I have nothing to say, so I pass, and then we go to Alan. And then if you proceed like that, you would have a reading order that would go through the Hangout. And if somebody, let's say now Chad had something to say and interrupt me because it's something very important, there would be a little hand raised, so I know he has to interrupt me, so I stop and say, hey, Chad, what do you have to say?
But do you think that could mess up the conversational flow? Like, for example,
I think it will.
I briefly interrupted you when you were talking about the hand to note, I saw that. I think I saw that someplace. Did anybody else see that? Which to me felt like a valid interruption, speaking out of turn, as it were. Because I know shows might be a little bit different, like radio stations sometimes.
I think the problem there, though, Eric, and this is I'm illustrating it now, is that in some cases it's hard to get a word in edgewise.
Right.
Even in Hangouts, even here, we're going to get 4 of us all talking at once, and all of the volume meters will peak out, and
especially when Alan's talking.
What do you mean, especially when Alan is talking? I was going to use Oleg as an example.
Yeah, Oleg.
The problem comes when we are 2 or 3 jumping in at the same time. That's when you really need to sort things out. Because if I'm talking and say, hey, you have 3 or 4 people and trying to just break in at the same time, that's where
Right.
the problem comes live on the Hangout. Especially when you have more than 5, 6, 7, if you have 10 people, it's not easy.
Hold on, Street, because I think Chad, like
God
5
bless
minutes
you,
ago,
Jesse.
raised his hand. This is confusing. And you also have to have somebody in there who, just because we're doing a show, it's a little bit of a different dynamic, but it's like, okay, Chad, and then Shriek, and then, you know, oh, we got to check YouTube, and then Bruce had his hand up, and so we're thinking of a lot of things, but...
It may impede the natural flow of conversation if you try to take turns in the alphabetical order. But
Yeah, every month we have an all-hands meeting. We have 30 people in a conference room.
Okay, now since we all know each other,
Obviously,
we can
he's
be
got
like,
Italian roots.
since we all know each other, we can be like, yo, shut up and let Chad talk, all right? What's up?
I'm not that
Chad, go
desperate
ahead,
or
man.
anything. I think that the moderator, the person who is hosting a hangout, he's the person who's throwing the questions around. He knows who the participants are. He knows what their strong points are. He knows how to direct the questions. If someone does have something to say to contribute to the conversation, just a little casual this. It doesn't take a active programming genius to.
Right.
I think
do
the
a little
problem though,
indicator.
chat. The problem though with the chat is that it works in something like this, where either Dan or whoever is running the thing. In a hangout, in a regular casual hangout, officially, and this is one of Eric's hot buttons. I'm sorry, Eric. There is no person who owns the hangout. It's a table set at a cafe that anyone can wander over and into. So just the fact that I created a hangout at the moment doesn't give me any additional powers to dictate who gets to speak or in what order, or to try to moderate. There is no moderator, formal or informal, in a regular hangout.
Well, I think that it matters a lot less in that kind of hangout too. That we have to maintain some production value to have people entertained and informed in this sort of format. But when you're just hanging out at 2 o'clock in the morning with random people out there, you're there for an experience just with those people. You're not trying to orchestrate an event for someone.
Okay, I want to bring in a couple of comments from YouTube because there have been a pile of good ones. It's Rendaler has commented that both Adobe and WebEx have the raise hand button. He wouldn't be surprised if there are others, but those are the two that he knows about. I was scrolling and it disappeared on me. There it goes. Rendaler also commented, agreeing with Eric's original premise about there being cultural differences in expectations and what's considered polite versus rude. And I think that kind of goes to what Eric was saying at the beginning is, and my question to him is, how do we manage this, and if necessary and if possible, how do we try to codify this? And then there's the counter argument coming from Ilse Charlie, I guess is how I would pronounce his name. You people are overanalyzing this, making it far too complicated. This is why Google Plus will never attract the masses.
I just replied to that comment. Look, bottom line is, there's a public chat room. Everyone's in there talking, having a great time, and a whole bunch of people come in and they just walk all over you, and there ain't crap you can do about it. That's not exactly going to be, hey, come on in and get interrupted. So, yeah, we have to at some point go down that road of overanalysis. But at the end of the day, yeah, you're in there talking with your boys, and I'm going to walk in and be like, hey, what's up? Hello, how are you? And that's totally how it goes, but like times 5, that's pretty effed up. I mean, you know, so either way, they're both going to kill the adoption, and we're left without anything. Now, I'm an IRCer, and IRC used to be all crazy, and now it's all calm and obscure, but that's what's nice about it.
That's Eric.
What? Yeah, we're not going down that conversation again. But mute him, please. No, but, you know, there's basic controls. You can just make it and say, look, the trusted people, you know, it's like a little personal space than the person that created the room, or at least setting the topic. But I'm afraid people are going to be like, talk about Android, no Arabs, right? So that topic thing is going to probably have some weirdness to it. We don't know. And yeah, it can get sensitive in a quickness.
I think to start wrapping this up, we had a comment earlier and I can't find it, so I apologize to whoever posted it, asking, does this just mean that we're going to need a new form of netiquette? And kind of my follow-up to that is, has netiquette ever actually worked, or has it essentially always devolved into when someone breaks netiquette, everyone just starts saying you broke netiquette and arguing about the point?
Well, in what medium? Text?
I'm thinking all the way back to IRC days or Usenet days.
Well, text is handled totally differently. And it's not like I start typing in the middle of your sentence. So we do have to consider the format a little. If somebody's trolling, maybe it can be downvoted. The tools are at least there to handle it. The community can downvote it or upvote it. We look at things like Reddit or Hacker News articles or what have you. There is some mechanism to bury it. There's rating systems. There's all sorts of stuff that's been done out there. But to have nothing, that's just disaster.
Well, Eric, you participated in the NAB Hangout, the National Association of Broadcasters. I saw that on Wednesday. The people who you were hanging out with there, they were a group of people who frequently hang out with media types and on newscasts and on organized events. Those are people who have a select circle of maybe 4,000 people who are these trusted entities who know how to behave. They make the list. If somebody breaks the rules of conduct in that kind of format, they get removed from the circle. They're not brought in again. And that handful of people that you're with, when they go into a hangout, those are the people who are in the chat box over here saying, hey, can you mute? Or hold on a second, it's your turn in 2 minutes. Or we're going to get to that topic in 5 minutes. These people are kind of moderating behind the scenes and producing from the chat window. So maybe something like that is something that could be implemented. People paying more attention to who they allow into the room in the first place.
And we also have to speak the language too.
Yeah, that's true.
So that element. Last time Dan had a hangout, Oleg translated. There was a new guy in here who was from Russia, I think, and he didn't speak a word of English. Fascinating dude. I don't circle too many people, but this guy, I'm like, I want to circle him, but I can't speak his language. Oleg was translating in an uncontrolled environment. Like this is a non-air thing, so there's control. That guy would have been chased out in a second. And it's like, how. We do want to discover people. Just because you don't speak English doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means you can't speak English. That shouldn't be a black mark. But yeah, I agree that all those side chats are huge, especially if you're telling somebody that you're going to mute them like a second before you do. Even people here who have background noise, But probably we understand why all of a sudden someone's being muted. They're like, oh, I must be too loud. And we know Dan's doing a show, so little different dynamic. But yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I want to thank everybody who watched tonight, commented, and asked questions. I want to thank our featured guests. Lamarr Wilson was fantastic, and Mohamed Mansour was awesome as well. I have two great sisters, Kelly and Leslie, and hopefully one day you'll get to meet Leslie. But this is fantastic. So we're going to continue our hangout and our conversation. For those of you who are watching on YouTube Live and Google Plus and Justin TV, we'll continue that. But I want to thank everyone for watching Google Plus Week. It's been a wonderful experience, and as always, we've learned from the participants and the guests. So I want to wish all of you watching and either live or most of you who watch after the fact. I want to thank you for tuning in, and I want to wish all of you a very happy and a wonderful Google Plus Week. Thanks so much.